Hello there. Hopefully I'm going to make sure that we're live because it glitched a little bit. So let me see if we're live. Oh, I think we are live. Can you guys hear me? Okay, we're on to we're on to chapter 9. Chapter 9 of the Jaybells dilemma. So let me get this here. Jaybells, Jaybells, Jaybells. There we go, part 9. Let me get my phone. It's been on the charger so that it'll be good to go. And it's my son Ray's birthday, so 7 minutes ago. Happy birthday, Ray, in heaven. All right, gotta do something special. Gotta bake a cake. Something, believe it or not, I cannot find the Dutch processed cocoa. So Jimmy's going to try to go to ShopRite. I looked at ShopRite. They don't even have it online. They have a blend. I don't know what the deal is. So yeah, tried to order it through Walmart. They had it, but it was a whole rigmarole. So I'm going to have to try to go there when I get a chance. But anyway, back to Jaybells. Okay, so December 20th. Oh, it brought me to December 20th. That's the end. We were at, I believe we were in, we were after Thanksgiving. We saw her feast, her Thanksgiving feast. And sometimes the messages overlap. So sometimes parts will have the part for the night before because I start a little bit above, right? You get what I'm saying? So let's just say I went over like Thanksgiving again. I may have done it last night. I may do it again tonight just to get the context. But I'm not going to do Thanksgiving again because I think we're Thanksgiving out. And we are going to keep going. We do have a sale tomorrow night. Come on, come on, come on, come on. I have to color my hair too. I'm trying to do that. Sorry, I'm still on March of 2020. March is, here's when she was with me. February of 2020. We're almost there, guys. Almost there. Linda is dying to move on to Fabric Queen, but we've got to do Jenna first. We've got to do Jenna first. And we're going to watch the video with Jaybells when she did the snow babies with me. Okay. So let's keep going, keep going. Almost there, guys, almost there. Hope you had a good day. Did another spin bike today. Oh, this one should be good. She posted a lot of pictures in here. We're going to be seeing a lot of pictures from the texts. Okay. Let's try to remain calm and kind in the text, okay? In the chats. All right, so here we go. We're December 5th of 2019, December 4th. Okay, so we saw her Christmas tree, right? And then she said that Welker's shite really hurt her, that Welker said, but that she was okay and not to worry. But she was not acting right. And then she said it gives her pains in her chest. She feels like she's being stabbed. And then she showed me her penguins that she made. And then she thought I said something that she said something that I took wrong, and she went all over that, and told me that everybody that's successful has these people that try to take them down, etc. Whatever she was saying there. Let's see, a conjunction, junction, what's your function? We went over that. Oh, and then we're talking about the doll, right? The doll. Okay. Then she says, thanks, I didn't get the first one. She sent me a screenshot. What is this? Okay, so this one, important and FYI, the following remarks are in no way in defense of BBT. There is a reason BBT is mentoring Dr. Phil, and it has nothing to do with Wendy. You should have BBT explain. One evening during the time MRB subscriptions were about 17,000. Yes, MRB's former moderators about the shenanigans going on behind the scenes, unbeknownst to MRB. What? I don't even know what that... What? I don't even know what that is or who that person is. Yeah, really? And how do you know what's going on behind the scenes? I don't even know who you are. And I don't know what's going on, but you do? Okay. Oh, I said, oh, did you bid? Okay, and then, let's see here. Then, oh, there was that guy, right? She told me that guy that BBK was stalking. And then I have a whole bunch of voice messages. Okay, and then she says, I thought this picture was taken down. And no, those voice clips you sent sounded like she was in validation phase while trying to be equal. And you don't start with I'm done and then speak with for 23 minutes and then say I'll go through the fine details with you. That's not someone who's done. It's none of their business. She stinks like a mole or something, but anyway, it's not some insider job that requires a back and forth. Either she likes that person or she doesn't. Either she likes you or she doesn't. She doesn't need a scoop. I don't get it. And I don't know who she's talking about, but she sent a screenshot. And it says Mommy Ramblings blog. And then it says score, but that doesn't even make sense. Oh, it was a different channel. It said Mommy Ramblings blah. And I didn't even realize that there was a video there. That's interesting. She goes, the picture isn't there. I don't know. Has the main thumbnail not caught up? What the hell is she talking about? That's not even my channel. Okay, I'm lost. I don't even think I saw that. She goes, they changed it to blah, not blog. They are trying to circumvent the copyright. I said, yeah, they changed that last night. I guess I saw it. I still see the picture. Look at the comments on the video. Yeah, I know about Hot Pink. She says, yeah, I did. I didn't see the picture. That's why I was wondering if there was a latency. She goes, yeah, I'm unsure about her too. She's odd. She goes, hey, then she told me she had a fever, right? She had a fever. Okay, we went through that. She was going to the hospital. And then she came out of the hospital. And then I think she was going to help me make those things, I think. So I said, I need to write a strongly worded letter to Amazon. She said, you do? How come? She said, doll still has 2 days. Now she's bringing up the doll to me like, don't forget to buy my doll. Don't forget to buy it. Okay. Have you been screwed by Amazon, she said. I said, well, some shoes. And then I go, doll? And she goes, yeah. Still 2 days left. No response to my question yet. And no bids. I said, did she answer you? She said, I'll send it again and add more details. about having it collected by the courier so she didn't have to do anything. And then she gives me a number in case I want to get on a Zoom with them. And that's when I told her, thank you so much for all those great presents, and thanked her. And I gave her all of this cancer information, all of this stuff. And then I was asking, did you see my big thank you? Did you see that? Did you see the stuff I sent you? And she was just like, And then I told her, I'll get the doll. And I was showing her dolls. And then she was showing me more of those things she made. And then she told me to finish my houses before they turn into Easter houses. I showed her some of my crafts that I made. And she said, oh, lovely, they look so nice. And then she was bleeding. Remember, she was having bleeding issues. Had to go to the hospital, had to go to the ER. So we were there last night. Okay, so we're down to December 8th. And we were talking about somebody. She wouldn't stop with the question. She came in late. Doodly-doodly-doo. And then Jaybells said she's so easily offended, like she has no social skills at all, completely unable to read a room. Oh, she was talking about the Sievers case, and I said, and she's all like, why do we have to talk about her sex life? And I said, we're not talking about her sex life. She didn't have sex, just fooled around a little bit in the ocean with Mark's brother. And then she's like, okay, and this is all in typing, the time it took. And then just when I'm ready to get back on the mic, she puts in a stupid comment like, Caroline, you've answered all my questions about everything, but you didn't answer me about something else. Okay, yeah, okay, so we're talking about that. All right. Now, let's see here. Okay, so I said, so then I crafted. I didn't get as much done as I wanted to. I got some videos made I wanted to get done before I ended up. I couldn't find my Mod Podge, so then I ended up going downstairs and organizing my craft stuff, because when Jimmy brought it down, he brought it down willy-nilly, and so that, well, it wasn't good. And in the long run, I found a lot of stuff that I didn't know I had, including some of the new Christmas stuff that I bought, so I went through that, and then that made me late, and well, yeah, I got a lot done. I don't know, and then this Chris Watts thing was on, and Jimmy told me, and then I was like, I watched it, and it was really good. I mean, good, and the fact that it was all factual. It didn't have you scratching your head, and Tammy Lee was there, and everyone else. She said, okay, very productive on all fronts. I said, well, I wouldn't say very. She said, organizing is good. Oh, okay, ha ha ha. I said, somewhat. She goes, so do you have a dedicated craft room area? I said, no, it's not a room yet. It's some shelves, well, some shelving units down in the basement in an area that is supposed to become my crafting area. She goes, okay, well, it'll get done. It'll get there, ha ha ha, one day. I said, one can dream. She said, well, what needs to happen to make it reality? I said, is Cinderella's fairy godmother still around? She said, LOL. I said, I need a whole bunch of bibbidi-bobbidi-boo. Then she said, I'm laughing my head off. That's hilarious. I said, well, it's true. Either that or that Samantha lady, the one that can twitch her nose and make 7 things happen. I said, I never understood why Darren was so resistant to that. If I had a spouse that could do that, I'll be using that crap all day. She said, well, yes, there are many magical options, although gaining access to this wizardry is the hard thing. Aw, shame. She said, I built a custom desk before now for my old house. I was sad to move for that very reason. I had a utility, I guess you could call it a nook, not a room, and made all the shelves built the desk, cubby holes. I said, oh, yeah, you built it yourself? She said, electrical hookups? I said, sounds cool. She said, yeah, it's a good project. I upscaled an IKEA cabinet and then added planks of wood to it. I made some hanging shelves, too, to save space. I said, ingenious of you. And that's what she told me she had ordered a desk from, I think, Etsy. She goes, you're being sarcastic now. Ha, ha, ha. So let me see. She sent me a picture of this. Let's see. I'll see if I can quickly send that to myself. Send it to myself. Okay, let me get it. Okay. Here you go. Here's her desk area. I don't know if this is supposed to be in another house because this is oddly familiar with that stuff there, but okay, so let's see. All right, back to the WhatsAppers. She says, I made that too out of some bed slats. You're being sarcastic now. I said, no, I'm being serious. What is that I'm looking at? She said, you'll get your wizardry one day. Click your heels 3 times. I said, I need the ruby slippers. She said, that is a hanging shelf I made. It's a crap picture, but it has all the things I need at my desk without having room taken up with sticking out shelves and stuff. I said, oh, cool. Then she said, so it hangs behind my computer and I just reach and grab things from the hanging pots I put on it. She sent me another picture. Hold on. I'm going to see. Excuse me. Okay, let me get this. She sent me another picture of this with that banner thing that's there. Excuse me. And I'm glad I'm sneezing because I don't normally sneeze. I usually hold that stuff in, and that's not good. Jimmy hates when I do that. He's like, don't do that. Okay. Let me get this now. Okay, this is the other view with that banner thing that we've seen before in other pictures. Okay, so let's just take a little look-see. See, I saw this baby here. You see that baby? And I thought, is that AJ? Quite frankly, it looks really old. It looks like when my daughter was a baby. It looks that old, so it might even be her. Okay? So, but I saw that immediately, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, is that a baby? And I think I asked her about it here. So let me go back here. Let me go back. So she says, so it hangs behind my computer. I said, but that is in New York, right? She goes, yeah, the same blue Yeti I do. No, hold on a minute. I said, but that is in New York, right? And then I said, yay, the same blue Yeti I do. I mean, I have. She goes, no, that's here. The picture, my desk utility room project was in New York. I said, wait a minute. The picture that you just showed me is in London? She goes, yeah, that's in London. That's now. I said, both of the pictures? She said, yes. I said, okay, I was confused. Then she goes, one was taken behind the computer, the other obviously in front of it. But the desk project was when we lived in Tarrytown. So sadly, it had to stay behind. I'm still in mourning. Look how she makes light there. She's in mourning for a desk when she's really in mourning for her husband and baby, right? I said, oh, I see. Is the baby picture AJ's? She goes, no, it's not. It's a birth announcement from a colleague. Well, that's not a birth announcement. That is not a birth announcement. That looks like a picture in one of those frames. So that's weird, okay? That's quite a big picture, and it's like in one of those cardboard frames, and it really looks old. So she says, I said, oh, I see. I'm sorry. She goes, no, that's okay. I have some pictures of him, but I'm not able to put them out yet. So they are in a safe place. Yeah, in her outbuilding, right? Yeah. Okay. I said, that's okay as long as you have them. She goes, yep, XX. I said, well, darling, I'm fading fast, so I'm going to get a few hours of sleep. You try to keep yourself together until then. Well, beyond then, XX. She said, good night and sweet dreams. Then I said, how is it going? How it going? She says, I'm okay, thanks. How are you? I said, are you in the hospital? She said, I was discharged just at 5 p.m., so I'm waiting for the paperwork. So good news. How's your day? I said, I didn't have my glasses on, and I thought it said I was discharged, and I'm just waiting for the snowman. She goes, ha, ha, ha. She goes, get back in there, Genevieve, with a white jacket on, too. Okay, I'm home. I said, wow, fast. She goes, you forget. I live 15 minutes walk, 5 minutes cab for about 5 different hospitals. Ha, 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 ha. See, she's in 5 different. She doesn't want me to know where she is. She goes, my discharge was processed in 30 minutes. Yep. Was quite lightning, I have to say. I said, sounds like it. How are you feeling? She said, better now. I have Elvis. She said, but feeling a bit run over by a truck. And then it backed up. Nothing a decent sleep won't cure. I said, oh, that does not sound pleasant. She said, LOL, ha 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 ha. I said, I need you to send me your address. And she gave it to me. I said, okay, thank you. How are you feeling? She said, feeling pretty garbage, but nothing I can't handle. Hope you've been having a great day. I said, are you sleeping? She goes, not this second. Can't seem to nod off. You okay? I said, yeah. I was going to call you for a minute, but I didn't want to call you if you were sleeping. She goes, sure. Then she started talking about another creator she was watching and stuff, and I said, oh, really? I was looking at a terrible tattoo she had removed. Da, 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 da. Okay. Then she said, oh, yeah, I saw that picture. Gross. Okay. I said, sorry, I got lost in a tangle of people painting glass plates, and it just started to overflow into one after the other, and I couldn't stop. Well, sounds like really, I don't even know what I'm saying. Is that the one where she was crying? She goes, LOL, I have no idea what you're talking about, but okay. I said, decoupaging. She said she was crying, yeah, but it was so genuine. Aha. I said, sounds like match parting. I don't even know what the heck I'm saying here. She goes, right. I said, all right, I'll give it a listen as I fall asleep like my bedtime story. Did everything go well today at the doctor? She said, LOL, ha ha ha. Yes, I actually put it on while I was falling asleep. The most significant parts are in the middle. She goes, but I have an appointment made to discuss new doctors after my session tomorrow morning. I said, oh, good. Night. Talk to you in a few hours. Love you. Bye. She goes, night. Love yous. Bye. XX. I said, how's it going today? She says, not so bad. Lots of sleeping happening. How about you? I said, nothing much. Trying to get stuff done. She said, good stuff, as you were. She said, just about to adventure into the cold to take my drying to the laundromat. I'm seriously neglected my laundry. I said, oh, my, how did that go? Did it freeze on the way? She said, LOL. I said, do you have a washer and no dryer? How did the appointment go? She goes, right, washer, no dryer, treatment fine. I'm still here waiting to see the doctor, so that part hasn't happened yet. I said, oh, good luck. Then she said, I'm sat here. I couldn't stand. I'm sat here. You know, I know that's the way she speaks, but every time she said it, it was like always something was happening. She goes, I'm sat here sobbing like a kid, though I just want to go to sleep. Ha ha ha. Thanks. I said, oh no. She goes, meh, I'm being ridiculous, just tired. I said, can you lay on the exam table? She said, I'm in the weight room. I said, oh, that sucks. She said, yeah, I may have to close my eyes, and I hope nobody pinches my purse. That's what she would always say. They pinched my doll, meaning they took it. Nobody pinches my purse. Ha ha. Okay. I said, LOL, sit on it, LOL. She goes, see, you're smart. LOL, hope you're well. Good live. I caught back end of where the chat went crazy. Also, not too sure why Sakura is posting random videos in general Slack. Are you? I said, really? What happened in the chat? When did they go crazy? She goes, yeah, I don't think she should be posting them. It's like she wants to show people drama and give her views, weirdo. Oh, she said, everyone went nuts. I said, what did they say? She said, someone accused Daniel C. of making fun of them, saying they were tired. Everyone in the chat jumped on the bandwagon. He actually apologized, but for some reason people kept going. I said, which side of the bandwagon? And she said, having a go at him. And then she posted screenshots. And then she goes, that's where he apologized. But it just went on and on. People on about blocking him, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully it was resolved. I couldn't see the end. Just letting you know, because he said he would email you to solve a bicker. How ridiculous. Ha, ha, ha. I said, oh, no. She said, yeah, hopefully it was all solved. I'm not sure. I said, it's lies, and others say they never laugh so hard, and others say it was nasty. She says, yeah, it was all weird. They look like a bunch of kids. All of them really should have just dropped it when he apologized for getting the wrong end of the stick. LMO. In my opinion, no, IMO, excuse me. Anyway, sorry for bringing that up, but thought it would be helpful in case you get an email. Meet my new doctor tomorrow, so fingers crossed they aren't a moaning Minnie. I said, oh, wow, okay, and crossing fingers on the new doctor. Did you call any of the other people in places, right? She goes, no, she still hasn't, right? I went through all that work getting all that stuff for her. She goes, no, I intended to, but I've been a bit zoned out and sleeping most of the day because it's not a priority, really, Okay. I'll make sure I'll do it tomorrow. I got a steam mop delivered today with the crappy weather, and I'm trying to keep everything sanitary. I can't wait to play with that tomorrow and be the steam queen. I said, oh, they are so fun. How was the new doc? She says, oh, much more positive. I said, great. And then she called. And then I guess she called me, and I was live. She goes, crap, I'm so sorry. You hadn't known you were live. I'm so sorry. Never mind. I will catch you tomorrow or whatever. I'm sorry. Sorry. I said, I'm not live anymore, and I tried to call you back. She said, I went to wash up. I'm Dory, because she's not typing right again. I said, can I call you in 5 minutes? She said, no, I'm just being daft. My hair's coming out like bad. I just panicked. I'll go to sleep. I'm sorry. I'm definitely just... That's just, my goodness. Gingbi, Tongo, to sleep. I'm tired. Good night. God bless. Sorry, got busy. Got being silly. I hope I didn't interrupt XX. I said, it's okay about interrupting. How bad is the hair? Hold on. I just lost my place here. Okay. How bad is the hair? And then I sent her a bunch of pictures of the glitter ornaments I made and the kids in the rugby shirts, etc., etc. She said, great decorations, and I'm glad the tops fit. I said, how you doing? She said, okay. I said, did you get home? She said, yeah, I did. I said, did you see your new doctor? She said, I have done. I said, well, how is he? She said, yes, much more positive, friendly. How so? I said, I was listening to Dr. Teresa Sievers. They played something in court, and the one thing she said is, as they were closing up, is that if your doctor doesn't believe that you can be cured, that they can help you, it's like the worst thing ever. She said, let's talk about the future. Hadn't been pessimistic. Just talk about the future. Hadn't been pessimistic. She was a good one. She's writing all jumbled together. I said, does he talk about any cutting edge stuff? And then I said, 500? She goes, he says that we get to the end of radiation and we go up from there. And then she put a question mark. She goes, oh, sorry, too. I said, sure you're okay? She goes, I will be. I said, what's the matter, your hair? She goes, nothing. I'm just being ridiculous. It's no big deal. I said, what is it? Hold on a minute. I didn't stop I've got to put my watch on the charger. Okay. she said, I'm finding it quite hard. Oh, she said, well, yes, my hair. I said, and what else? And she said, I'm finding it quite hard. I said, treatments? She said, yes. Hold on, I just got to put my sponsor. I said, they get you some kind of I said, they get you some kind of idea, a counselor, a therapist. She said, I'm just waiting for an appointment. If I don't think it will help, though. I said, that's a really good attitude, LOL. Yeah, really great attitude. And you haven't called anybody I've researched, and you haven't done anything, and you're just being a freaking drain on everybody and all your fake flipping stuff. Yeah, okay. Okay, Jaybells. Genevieve Bennett. She says, I said, what do you... Oh, then she says, I said, that's a really great attitude. She said, sorry. I said, why are you still waiting for the appointment? She said, it's only been a couple of days or something, and it's not an emergency. They told me my husband died too. Oh, let me tell you something. One time I was on a Zoom with her, and she picks up the phone, and she's talking on the phone. She goes, I've got it. I'm not Forrest Gump, you know. Fine. And then and I go, who is that? And she goes, my doctor. I'm like, your doctor? But then Sean said that was probably her. I don't know why she was doing that, but she could turn nasty in a second to people. She wasn't, Sean said she would get nasty to her. She was never really nasty to me. She said, and it's not an emergency. They told me my husband died too. I said, what do you mean? Who told you? She said, I'm forgetting again, I think. I said, this morning when you were getting treatment? She said, I think so. I said, you can't remember? She said, I'm losing my marbles. I don't know. I'll shut up. I'm sorry. I said, you don't need to shut up. You have a right to say how you feel. She said, okay, but I don't want to worry you. I just find it hard. I said, what day did your husband die? Was it May 9th? She goes, a few days ago, I think. I said, no, it was in May. Was it the Wednesday or Thursday before Mother's Day? It's December 12th at this point. She goes, my son was born on the 12th, Wednesday. I said, your son was born on a Sunday. He was born on Mother's Day. Hold on, I want to make sure that the chat is running. Uh-oh. Okay. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Prime Objective. Thanks, Buckian. So, I said, he was born on Mother's Day. She goes, yes. My husband, and May 9th, because it was in the night. It went into the Thursday, but he went in on the Wednesday. I said, yes, okay, right. She goes, I don't want to remember it, though. I said, okay. It wasn't a few days ago, was it then? It's not May now. I said, no, it was 7 months ago. She says, why am I not better about it then and still sad every day? I said, 7 months is not a long time. She goes, okay, it feels like a long time. Now, she just said she thought it was a couple of days ago. You see how she's contradicting herself? Okay, it feels like a long time because he's not here. The days are just too long. I'm sorry, I'm wittering on. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be normal, but I don't feel like myself. I do okay, and then I'm not okay. I said, that's the way grief is. It ebbs and flows. Oh, boy. And then she said, I'm not allowed a family. They always go. I said, I know it's not fair. She said, I don't know why or what I did. I said, you didn't do anything. She said, it's hard not to think that. I said, I know, it's natural to think that. She goes, are you okay? No more problems with silly old women? I said, oh, I'm not worried about the women. She goes, okay, good. I'm sorry. I try not to be so down. I just feel like I'm losing my mind and I'm really scared and I'm sorry. And I said, you don't have to be sorry. I can only imagine how scared you must be. I don't even know how you do what you do. You're incredibly strong. Okay, and then she said, I think I'm a pain in the arse. I said, no, you're not. She said, okay, I hope not. Good. I'll let you know. I'll just go to sleep or something. Thank you. I said, okay, if you need me to, I'll take a bunch of pills and get on a plane. She goes, oh, well, I know how hard that would be. I'd never ask, not expect that, but thanks. But thanks for saying it. I said, people do it every day. Maybe I can fly over. And I said with this other creator, and she goes, LOL. I said, what are the chances her and I would go down together? She goes, well, she does do the journey often. I said, she does go to London often, LOL. And she goes, LOL, she was supposed to move here. I think it fell through. I said, yeah, I think so. She goes, you have a passport? I said, I'll get one. She goes, always handy to have. I said, my daughter just got the most atrocious passport picture because they would not let her smile. And she looked like she was so mad. She goes, oh, really? Was it more of a mugshot then? I said, oh my gosh, it looks like I can't even tell you. It doesn't even look like her. She said, and she will have that for 10 years. I said, unless she loses it again. She goes, well, that might have to happen then. Hold on a moment. I just freaking lost my place again. Okay. I said she lost it in Ecuador. She said, oh crap. I said, well, it was stolen. She said, ah, good. I was about to wag my finger at her. And she said, well, not good, not at all. I said, yeah, the people that were painting the house of a friend that works for the government, the painter stole it. She said, that's not cool at all. I said, no, not at all. I thought she was going to be stuck in Ecuador. She goes, right. She get an emergency, I guess, but it's a panic. I said, thankfully her friend was able to get it set up through the government fast. She said, handy connections, or it's such a pain. I said, yes, absolutely. So she says, so not all my hair has fallen out, mainly at the back. I see. Okay, what do you want to do about it? I said. She goes, I don't know. Nothing I can do except plead with the skies that no more falls out. It doesn't look bad. It's covered by my other hair. I said, all right, but there are alternatives. She said, it's just I ran my hands through it and so much came out. I feel like all my hair, and then my scalp is sore now. Like what? I said, like wigs. Let me ask you a question. She goes, right, okay. I said, the Hasidic Jews, I think I was reading a book, something, but I think it's with the Orthodox too, right? When they get married, they shave their heads and wear a wig. But now they can just put on this like white headband and that's acceptable right on their own hair. The thing that doesn't make sense is that isn't that the whole thing is supposed to be still they're unattractive to other men? And she says they tend to wear a wig over the top of their hair. That's what my mom did. Yeah, what a liar. The hair is supposed to be the most sensual, intimate part of the body and can only be shown to your husband. I said, and if that is the wigs, the buyer very trendy, or they just wear like a whole headband. But I read in the book once about this whole ritual of shaving their head when they got married. I can't even remember what book it was. She said, okay, maybe it was a certain sect of Hasids. I said, yeah, I don't know. But still, on the point I'm trying to make is that they're not buying unattractive wigs anymore. They're buying very attractive wigs. So what's the difference? I really don't know. She said, no, they are not. You're right. Well, it's because their own hair is still a mystery. It's less about being unattractive, more about saving that part of you for your husband. I said, so when they're at home, they take the wig off. She said, I mean, the logic is quite dated now and subjective, but hey-ho, I wouldn't even know where to start with a wig. Yes. I said, I'm sure we are getting treatment. I'm sure where you are getting treatment would have options. Or Amazon. She said, well, they have this NHS wig catalog, but the waiting list is too long. I said, how long is the waiting list? She goes, I imagine there are places about, but it freaks me out to think of it. And what if it looks like crap? And I don't know if it does. Ha ha ha. I said, I'll tell you. She said, well, I don't really qualify, so I'll always be at the bottom because I can afford to buy one. It's on a needs basis. I said, I see. I think Amazon has some good ones. She goes, okay, it might be an idea, but I won't lose it all. Maybe just thinned out. I go, right. I said, did you have constant headaches before you were diagnosed? She goes, no, but I started getting migraines and feeling dizzy, vomiting randomly. I said, but not like constant mild headaches all the time? She said, I felt like I had headaches. I couldn't shift running up to the diagnosis. I said, but they were bad headaches? She said, that's what I remember anyway. No, some were the bad ones. Meant I couldn't even move, but the milder ones I could still go to work. What are you thinking? Maybe brought it to the doctor sooner? I've already thought that too. I said, no, I'm not thinking that. She goes, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. I said, I'm just getting these headaches, but I think it's stress. She goes, oh, okay, where's the pain mainly? I said, like behind my eyes and stuff, a little bit, in my face and like around my temples, sometimes a little bit down the back of my neck and the bottom of my head. She goes, yeah, okay, that's usually associated with tiredness and stress, yes. I said, mostly in the front of my head, like on my forehead. She goes, also associated with straining at a computer. I said, that's what I'm thinking, but of course I'm thinking the worst because that's what I do. She said, I'm sorry, how awful for you. I said, oh, stop it. Then she said, headaches are the worst because you can't concentrate properly. I said, that's what I mean. So I can't imagine what the pain is like for you. She said, those areas are usually tension headaches. You should get an Indian head massage or just a head massage. I said, an Indian head massage? What the heck is that? She said, they actually help. Well, just a technique and some essential oils. I said, maybe I'll try that. She said, I'm not having those at the moment because I'm too scared to wash my hair right now. Ha, 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 ha. I said, I see. She said, so I'm not oiling them up, but yeah, give it a shot. It's nice. I said, I don't think I have any Indians around here that do that. She goes, oh, okay, well, a regular head massage will do. I said, well, see, I surprise you. Go for them. You never like anybody. She said, we'll see. I'm surprised you go for them. You never like anybody touching you. She goes, oh, right, yes. Well, I'm a newbie at all this crap. I said, LOL. I said, okay, kiddo. I want to have a few hours of sleep. I have to try to go to Walmart and the dollar store tomorrow. Exciting, LOL. She goes, only in the past few months I've had a facial and a head massage. It was the best thing ever, but I only have a woman do it. And then I've had an Indian head massage after my first week of treatment. Then I said, what are your plans? What did you find these people in some shop on the side streets? She goes, oh, okay, nice. I have no plans. I'm just going to stay in bed. I have got nothing to ha ha ha. I said, there's something on Netflix called Gregory about some crime in France, about a little boy or something. Have you heard about that from 1984? The case was 1984. She goes, no, I went to a spot first and the India one. There's loads of massage parlors near me. I said, and then she said, okay, no, I've not. I'll take a look. I said, and then there's a new one about the confessions or something, and it's trending on Netflix. You should check it out. Some guy that was like this mastermind killer. She said, okay, thanks, I'll look. Thanks for talking with me. Hope I didn't keep you up. Get some rest. 7 o'clock in the morning almost, okay? And sweet dreams. I said, no problem, kid. Sweet dreams. I love you. She said, love you back. And then she sent her location. She goes, sending you my location. I'm trying to get home, but I'm forgetting. I forgot all this. I forgot she would forget her way. I totally forgot this, okay? This is traumatizing. I said, did you find your way? I wish you would text Jimmy if you can't get me. I was on the road. And then I gave her Jimmy's number. I said, that's his number to text. Did you get home? It's not letting me call you. I don't know why. It's saying I don't have an internet connection, but I have one. I don't understand. If you have to go to another location, did you get this? She sent me her live location, but it's not pulling up. Then she goes, whoa, the messages have just come through. I'm in the bath. Crap. Has it not updated? I said, no, something was bonkers with my phone. She goes, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. What a mess. I'm sorry. I said it wasn't connecting to the flipping internet. So I had to power it off, power it back on. I was on the road, so I didn't get your message, but I gave you Jimmy's number, and I need you to call it if you get this again. And are you okay? How long did it take you to find your way home? She goes, oh crap, I'm sorry, Carolyn. That backfired. I'm really sorry. It took me a couple of hours. I said, oh my gosh, where did you go? She said, I have Jimmy's number. I promise I'll call next time. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to worry you. I really apologize. This is December 13th, 2019. She says to me, I hope you had a great day. I said, so frustrating, crafting. The Cricket and I have been working on the same project for almost 24 hours straight. The Cricket is winning. She said, oh dear, I hope you win. Don't let it defeat you. And then she said, there is somebody else going after me, a shite storm. And then she said, what all are you attempting to conquer with the Cricket? This is another one, another chapter, Scooter, Deb. Remember Deb, the People's Team for Justice? That's another chapter. She said Deb called him a few days ago. He recorded the call and aired it. She did not come across well. She sounded ridiculous, actually, but I don't care too much for that guy. So it was more of a meeting of the hotheads. And she goes, and just so you know, I've been admitted to the hospital. I've had a shitey, terrible day, quite unwell, but nothing to be concerned or worried over, just a bit sick. All is well, lots of sleeping happening. I said, oh, wow, oh, no, admitted, what happened? She goes, balance problems, lots of being sick, no big deal. It feels like something happens every day at the moment, but this is nothing. She said, but this is nothing. Home in the morning, I'm sure, I hope. In and out. It's not a problem. Don't worry. I said, what happened? Were you able to have your treatment this morning? She said, oh, yeah, I had my treatment. I've been fine, just unbalanced. Yeah, she definitely is unbalanced, right? She goes, so they have given me a steroid injection and seeing if it helps. Like half of me didn't belong to me or had control over and extremely tired. And she used to do this on camera too. Like, can you make a fist? She's like, yep. And she'd have her hand completely open. She goes, I am making a fist. And I'm like, Genevieve, that's not a fist. Your hand. And Jimmy and I'd be looking at each other. Oh, my gosh. Okay. And to know it was all fake. She's just a phony. I said, oh, wow, did you have to call an ambulance? She goes, anyway, these things happen. I just hope they plateau and quit for a hot minute so I can catch my breath. She goes, no, I was very calm. I Ubered, not an emergency. I said, how did you walk? She goes, well, I can walk, just differently. Reliant upon learning. I'm okay. It will soon be fixed. It's not a big deal, I promise. I said, okay. I said, I'm in another battle with the Cricket. I said, is that other video still up? And she gave it to me. And I said, and then she said, the reason I mentioned it was because the live chat obviously made reference to you here and there. Mommy Ramblings allowed her on. She allows Deb to bash Mike. Grrr, shitheads. It wasn't a big deal, but also grrr. So I said, do you know who said that? And then she put a whole bunch of screenshots, and she said it was more attacking Deb, and I was only awake through a bit of it. Sorry. Don't give it a thought. It's just fools. But Deb made a fool of herself. She sounded a little bit like an idiot. Hey, it's not a thing, okay? I only let you know in case someone random does. He's a minor and a weird one at that. Then December 14th, December 15th. She's sending me some screenshots and she's sending me a video of something. And what's that noise? Hold on. It's a weird noise. Hold on. Okay, I don't know what that was. All right. Like something barreling down somewhere. Like a plant, maybe. Let's see here. She's put some stuff from BBT. talking in riddles. So she says, somebody put something up there that something big is coming out. Fireworks they were going to show. And then she said, yeah, I saw that, but people are so bored with their crap. Let them. They have nothing. I think it will die down for the first time if she gets no engagement. She's becoming and sounding more crazy. People not responding. She hung herself there, and the time zone made it after 7 a.m. Nowhere is there a time difference of 4 hours in the time zones. You've all been vindicated. She has been proven in the wrong. She's bored. I said, yeah, I think so too. She said, I hope you're having a great day. And I said, crafting, and I showed her this big bucket of glitter balls I made with love, joy, jolly. I said, I'm having a few victories over the cricket today. She goes, oh, wow, they're really neat. I said, yay for the win. She goes, don't get carried away. I said, don't get carried away. I still have so much to do. She goes, okay then, get cracking. I watched Elf. It was what's next. I said, oh, you did? That's good. Have you watched a movie? Have you watched the movie All Good Things? She goes, no, I have not. What genre? I'm panicking, but I know I'm being nuts, but I don't know when Allie gets here. I can't freaking reach him. What if he misses it? I mean, he won't. He wouldn't, right? I said, Jen. And then I said, it's a really good movie based on Robert Durst. And then I must have called her because we moved on and it's like 2 hours later. So she said, so Diane is pissed at BBT. This is how you get her off your case. Let others take her to task. You've been vindicated. No longer your problem or issue. Nothing to defend. Then she said, got an appointment for this afternoon to discuss what we spoke of in the night. I said, the help? Your memory? She goes, I talked through the problems and they're sending an occupational therapist to my house to try to implement some strategies and things. I said, oh, good. She goes, yeah, positive. Hope you're well and getting well rested. I said, ugh. Not really, but show must go on. Wow, I said, I just got all the Michael Jones Discovery released so far. She goes, okay, uncomfortable reading. I said, it's the audios and the videos and the police cams. She goes, ah, right, okay. Misunderstood Discovery for the case file, but still interesting and like you've got the time. Ha ha ha. Bit, I'm sad to hear you haven't managed to rest. I said, I rested a bit. She says, okay. Well, be kind to yourself. Do what you need. I said, I got a little carried away, and I showed all the little doll clothes that I had washed, and they were drying. And I said, I was getting ready last night. Her body is pristine, which is really surprising. It doesn't even look like she was ever played with. And the only thing was those 2 little white spots on the back of her leg, and I took a magic eraser, and they're gone. I said, and then I wiped her up. She wasn't even dusty. I wiped it up with a wipe. I just went over here with a wipe, but her hair looks great. So I just don't want to wash it. But I washed her body, and then I stood her up, went over her shoes, and they're pristine. And then I hand washed all her clothing. She goes, oh my goodness. She goes, oh my goodness, it took me ages to see what I was looking at. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. I said I didn't want to put it in the dryer because, doll elastic can be delicate, and I didn't want it to dry out. I said, she should be ready to travel tomorrow. I want to make sure everything is completely dry. She said, holy moly, I don't know what to say. Thank you. I'm really excited. I said, like the nut that I am, I've been talking to her about her trip, where she's going and all of that. LOL. So then she goes, oh, well, it's a long way. She's got to be prepared. I said, absolutely, otherwise she would be really scared. She goes, reunited after 30 years. I said, or she goes, oh, she would have been. I said, I washed the clothes in this orange oxygen cleaner and rinsed them like crazy, but they still smell like that orange. Jimmy says maybe it will dissipate as they dry. I said, it's not a disgusting smell at all, just an orangey clean smell. She goes, okay, I like orange. It's all good. You really shouldn't have. I said, she has no smells at all. She doesn't smell musty, and she doesn't smell like smoke. She doesn't smell like animals or smoke. Her body is just really pristine, which, like I said, for the masterpiece, the vinyl, it can get little marks on it, but it will come off with things, just like stands displaying them. They can get little marks on their body. She doesn't have any of those. She looks really, really great, like she hasn't been played with her feet on. and so nice. She goes, that's amazing. She was well loved then. I'm pleased. I said, I don't even think her joints need to be restrung, but if they ever do need to be restrung, it can be done. There's a special elastic in the restrung, because that is, some of my dolls need like a certain limit string, and there are some tutorials on YouTube, but she seems good. I think she was just a display doll based on her condition. She goes, oh, great. Well, that's good to know. I said, right. Okay, well, then she said, okay, great. Well, that's good to know. And then she said, right, okay. Well, looking forward to her seeing some time outside of the box then. I said, yes, she can't wait. And then she posted this kid in the stands eating cotton candy with this big grin on, like she's having a big fit. And she goes, I'm doing this excited hands and face right now. I said, LOL. She goes, thanks. It means so much. I said, you deserve it. I wish I had received her sooner and she would have been sent, but she will be journeying tomorrow. She goes, oh, please. She will get here when she gets here, and I'll be waiting, no rush. I said, hope I can get her there as quick as you did. Just want her to be nice and fresh when she arrives. She goes, yeah, maybe, but it's okay. If not, honestly, I think we'll still get mail on Christmas Eve as well. Let's see, it's December 16th. I said, I am very particular with dolls, almost ritualistic or OCD. She said, I bet it's a ritual thing to you, huh? When you get a new doll, you clean her up, etc. I said, I'm washing them and their clothes, etc. Yes. She says, right, ha ha ha. That's okay, it's appreciated. I said, she was very good though, no rocks in her stomach. She goes, LOL, no rocks, ha ha. I said, that one I got from Germany was crazy, but you should see her now. She said, I mean, how much would shipping have been given that she was weighed down with rocks? I said, well, they are heavy dolls because they are naturally weighted with these bags of pellets in them, but I think she wanted extra weight, so it literally looks like she got some Ziploc bags and then filled them with garden pebbles. She goes, oh. And then I said, so those big toddlers, some of them, like the boy you saw, had a half cloth body, and the other ones, what is that? Refrigerator making noise. They're teddy bear jointed, and they have an entire cloth body, and then they have legs and 3/4 arms. So it's really easy to snip the zip ties, remove all the stuffing, wash the body, and then put the body back with new stuffing. And I only do that to some, probably 2 of all the ones I've got. And this was one of them. So I remember I was outside taking up the stuffing, and I get to the pellet bags, but then there were these bags of rocks, and I was like, what in the world? But as I talk to different collectors, they tell me that some have been received with big bags of sand in them and all kinds of stuff. She says, what? Shocker. I said, yeah. Anyway, yours is all vinyl, no rocks. Did you give yours a name? She goes, perfect. I still can't believe it. It took me 20 years of trying to figure out what type of doll she even was, so I knew what to look for, I had no idea. I said, oh, so not Sasha? She said, yeah, she was called Cecilia. She said, no, but I didn't know as a little girl that it was a Sasha doll. I said, okay, I will let her know. She said, so I didn't know what to search for. Great, please do. I said, important to know your name. She said, absolutely, and I think it suits her. It too. I said, most certainly. She said, it was Cecilia after Bette Midler in Beaches. I said, LOL, really? Now that, I'm trying to think. Bette Midler in Beaches, and I was trying to say, what? She said this was 30 years ago. Was Beaches 30 years old in 2019? Someone look that up real quick. But then when I saw that, I was like, oh, it was meant to, you're going to dance and sing, LOL. Ha 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 ha, lunatic child, ha ha ha, she's saying. It's a pretty name for a pretty girl. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I said, when her clothes are dry, I will dress her and send you a picture, and then I will wrap her in tissue. She goes, yes, please. And I said, in plastic to protect her. She said, thanks so much, and send her along. She said, wonderful. This is just so wonderful. I said, I will cushion her with lots of bubble wrap. And I said, airline handlers, you know. She said, you're very kind, and I'm very grateful. She will travel first class then. I said, yes, she will hardly feel a thing, and be ready for a spot of English tea upon arrival. And may also freshen your quarters with an orange grove if Jimmy is wrong. She goes, right. I said, LOL. She said, Bia's just emailed to say she's in the UK again. She is away for Christmas and New Year's, but is here for a week until then. I said, oh, great. And then there was a call. Then she said, that stupid thing, that medical alert alarm thing is ridiculous. Ridiculous. What stupid systems. Then there was another call. Then she said, don't worry, that call wasn't an emergency or important. Actually, it was just a quick one. And then I took a picture of the doll, all dressed with her shoes, and I said, getting ready. She goes, oh my gosh, she's perfect. She is perfect. Ciao, Cecilia. Tutto bene. And then I said, okay, I feel like Mark Severs asking for the amount of the invoice, but I need your address again because I can't find it in here. Also, I have her wrapped in tissue and then bubble wrap and then wrapping paper, and then I have her twined up, and I forgot about her box. So if you want the box, I can send it, or I can just keep it here for you. I guess I just wasn't going to put her back in the box after she was all nice and fresh. And then I didn't count on finding a box big enough to have the box traveling alone with her. That's what I meant to say. But if you want me to send it along, I can try and get a bigger box. But I have everything packed up in here, and I can keep the box for you, but I need your address. Never mind, I found your address. She goes, okay, sorry, just got this. Did you tell B about my diagnosis? No problem, if so. I just don't recall telling her. This is so crazy, okay? This is a fake person. She goes, sorry, I've missed all this. Do whatever's easiest for you. You can, oopsie. Oh gosh, hold on. Dang. Okay, we went back to the right thing. Do whatever easiest for you. You can keep the box there if you want. Then Miss Voice Curl. I said, I don't think you told her. She emailed me after she sent me what the doctor said it could be. I think I told you that. She goes, perfect. I knew it would have been me. Thanks. She said, just letting you know, this is December 18th, I'm too sick to have treatment today. I said, oh no. She said, so much pain. I said, where is the pain? Head? She said, yes. It is out of this world. Sorry, out of this world. Then I said, oh no. Did they say why it hurts so bad? Did they give you any painkiller? She said, sorry, hard to read. October be back later. Yes, they did. They haven't done much. I said, oh my gosh, you poor thing. That's terrible to have that much pain in your head. I thought you were having a nice day with B. When did the pain start? She said, I'll be okay, I hope. I said, how are you? She said, hi. It's been a tough day, very tough, but the pain is easing slightly. It is from the swelling from the radiation. There is little they can do except try even higher doses of steroids. It just doesn't work. If that doesn't work and this becomes more frequent or permanent, then pain management regime will have to be put in place. They are trying to avoid it by using the steroids. It's been such a crappy day, hard to bear. I can't stop crying, and that makes it a lot worse. Idiot. I said, oh no, so sorry to hear that. Did they get you the higher doses of steroids? She goes, yes. It helped a bit, so long as I don't move much. When I move, I vomit, and it feels like, I guess, an ice cream headache surge in my head. I'm on the struggle bus today. I'm finding this really hard. Sorry for moaning. It's just very hard. I said, that sucks so bad. She says, now I have to have stupid treatment on Saturday as well because I couldn't today. I wish they would say it's okay to keep the weekend off. I said, take it one day at a time and let's pray you get some relief from the pain. She goes, okay, I'm sorry. Tomorrow they will go into the system and double check you're in place as next of kin. Just double check the details are there. I said, okay. She said, thanks for everything. I really do appreciate it. I'm sorry I am not being more positive. I also tried to get a hold of Bella Mack, going to see if she would like to be one of those numbers if I get one of those life alert things. I'm a bit nervous to ask her, though. I said, oh, don't be nervous. She would do it. She goes, okay. I said, any better? She goes, a smidge. How are you doing? She said, thanks for checking in. Then she said, oh, gosh, I forgot this name. Can you tell me it? How could I forget? She said, oh, my gosh, I forgot his name. Can you tell me it? How could I forget it? And then she goes, that was at 3:43, and there was no response. And then from me, because I didn't see it. And she goes, AJ, ... remembered, sorry. I said, oh, okay, any better? She goes, no, I am trying to distract from the pain. I said, oh, if you need to talk, call me. December 19th, how are you? Hi, she said, no treatment again. I said, oh, no, still in too much pain? She said, yes. I said, what are they going to do about the pain? She said, I'm waiting for an idea on that. Someone will be in touch with a plan. I said, when? Is it worse than yesterday? She said, very soon. I don't know exactly. It feels worse, but I think it's just because I had some light relief for a bit. Trying not to be a wussy as yesterday. So brave face. Hope you're okay. I said, I'm okay. Sorry to hear you're in so much pain. I hope they have a solution for you. Are you still unable to eat anything? She said, thanks. Me too. I'm crawling the walls. She said, I've had liquid foods. Chewing feels like drilling inside my head. I said, oh, wow. She said, I'll be okay soon enough. I said, okay. When are they coming? She said, they're calling. I'm not sure. When I told them I'd go into the hospital if required, so I think they're just coming up with a plan or waiting till someone is free to call me. Won't be long, though. And everything will be fine. I said, did they do anything? She goes, we'll respond shortly. I said, oh, my, so long. Is pain still bad? She said, sorry, I meant I couldn't respond. I've had a scan. There was definitely swelling causing all that pain, so I've had another injection to reduce the swelling. It's helped a lot. I'm on my way home now. I said, okay, good. What kind of scan did they give you? She said, a CT. I said, did they tell you anything about the tumor size? Are you home? And then she said, missed voice call, and then she sends me a picture. What is this of? Oh, a pineapple that she decorated. Okay, remember the pineapple with this channel, right? And that, yeah. Okay, so she sends me that. I'm going to put this over here and change this picture. Let's see. Do 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 do. In the meantime, I'll take a look at the chat. Nora Woods, hello, darling. Linda, Prime Objective, Debbie to Scooter, Gail B. Hello there, everyone. Hello. Okay, let's put this on. Old-fashioned. Okay, so there's your pineapple tree. Pineapple tree. Did you say a pineapple tree? Yes. Okay. Is everything okay? Oh man, you keep dozing off. Okay, yeehaw. Hello, Victoria. She certainly is a piece of evil work, Victoria says. Yeah. Okay. So then she says, grazie mille, grazie and she's writing to me in Italian completely, but you see, this is supposed to be for her husband because she starts saying like ti amo, ti sono molto rogato, it's crazy, okay? So then she goes, I don't know what that above was about. I think I did that in my sleep. I am sick as a freaking dog after treatment today. I had treatment earlier. I spoke to them, and they are proposing having me back and admitting me, not coping too well. I said, oh no, I do understand what you wrote. She goes, ha, ha, nice and gushy then. I didn't understand why I wrote in Italian. It must have been the language of my dreams last night. Yeah, you liar. I'll give you a kick in the butt. She goes, I said, maybe are you going to the hospital? She goes, I'm waiting on a home call and hash out what's going on. I want to avoid it if I can. If this is all normal, then I'll learn to cope better or give me different drugs. But if I need to go, it's so bad. I'm scared and frightened. Sorry for my rambling. They are really going to throw things at me and help out. Trying new meds. Don't require fluids so I can stay at home. And fingers crossed, sorry again for all the complaining. This is why I try to keep things to myself. Ha ha ha. Yeah, to yourself, you lying sack of crap. Then she puts a lamp and a snowman, whatever. I said, LOL, so what are they doing for you? She goes, new regime of drugs, switching ones out. And they are taking seriously the need for some home checks. I'm also in charge of my faculties today. Ha, ha, ha. I said, that's good. She says, hope you're having a good day. I said, yes, I'm driving now off to the store, or should I say stores. She said, nice, nice. Nice, have fun. This is December 20th. December 21st, 2019. I say, how are you? She says, I'm okay. How are you? I said, you seem to be off by your typing, because it's off again. She goes, I said, is everything okay? Are you having any less pain? Is what they're doing helping? She says, hi, I'm okay. Yeah, it's helping a lot. Bit so far. Takes a bit of a minute to take effect, but helping a bit. Hope you're having a good Saturday. I said, are you having a hard time typing? Have you had any seizures? She goes, I don't think so. I said, did you remember how to cook? She goes, I think so, yes. I said, that's good. Did you make your stir fry? She goes, yes, I did the other day. Thank you for your help with that. Yeah, because I think she told me she forgot how to cook. She forgot how to turn the stove on. She forgot how to cook. Yeah, it was crazy. I told you she had my daughter teach her. She forgot how to knit. Oh my gosh, I want to punch her. Okay, sorry. I said, oh, that's good. I'm so wiped out. She goes, yeah, I can't believe the time. Did the whole day go by? I don't remember doing anything at all. Oh, no. Well, I bet you are. I'll go. I said, had so many plans and things I needed to have done, and I have less than an eighth, and I'm losing all motivation. She goes, I'm so sorry. It sucks. Sometimes some rest is good. It fuels the motivation. Or sometimes maybe some things just don't need to be done after all. What have you got left to do? I said, the list is too long. She goes, okay, well then do what makes you happy. Christmas will be lovely. Wait, whatever you do or don't do, all your family around. You'll have a lovely time. I know that's silly, but ultimately true. You've got your gift shopping done. I said, yeah. She goes, okay, well that's something. I said, yeah, except if the kids are home. I said, yes, except the kids are home, so I can't bring anything, and so I can't wrap anything. She goes, crap. She said, you have to become a ninja. She said, I have to have radiation on Christmas. They were going to give me the day off, super fun. I wish I was going home so bad instead. I said, oh, that's too bad. Did you have a treatment today? She said, at least it's done first thing in the morning, and then my plan is, I don't even know. I'll figure something out. I said, yes, and tomorrow, she's saying all this. Yes, and tomorrow no breaks until Friday. And I say, does the treatment always make the pain worse? She said, it seems so, yes.
confuses me a bit too. I said, that sucks. She said, starting to be painful topically as well. I said, oh no. She said, but I just need to suck it up because it's just what it is. I'm just finding it really hard actually, but I'll manage. I said, I have no doubt you will, but you can still vent about it being sucky. She goes, I'm here if you need. Not that I can do anything, but I'm okay. And I know you have a lovely time no matter what, but I hope it gets easier for you. She said, thanks. I try not to, but it's just really super hard. I said, oh, don't worry about me. I'll just have to have some more coffee and press on. She goes, I bet you think. Note bought K-cups in the world right now, haha. I said, haha, bought 2 boxes. She said, excellent. Also, if you have any votes, then she said, excellent. Also, if you have time, vote for Casbat on Diane's channel. Like the comment where Diane mentions Casbat and timestamps her entry. She is in with a shot. I said, I just tried to do that, and all I see, the timestamps, and I still don't see the timestamps in the where you vote. She says, okay, well, if you click sort by at the top of the comments and click the newest first, there's like 3 comments before she puts in the timestamps. I said, okay, will do. I said, Kay, Jimmy and I voted. She said, awesome. Okay. Then, let's see. She's talking about something. Then she put a Twitter. Check out Megan Humphrey. This is her. This is when the Megan Humphrey thing. Then she puts a happy Hanukkah. Hope you got your mojo back today. December 23rd. I said, wow, I'm losing my mind. I thought I replied to that yesterday. How was your day? She said, that's okay. Hope you have a good day. Then she goes, I said, are you okay? She goes, yeah. I said, you sure? She goes, how do you know? Five, he sees things. No, but it's nothing to worry over. She said, I have a handful of pictures of me as a small person. I haven't looked at this in 20 years, but what are the chances I'd be holding a pineapple? And this is the pineapple picture, and I'm going to post this. This is the one with the Levi's, where I'm like, how are you, Hasidic Jew, with the Levi's? What's going on here? What is going on? What is going on? What is going on? Okay, hang on, let me get this. What happened? Seriously? It doesn't really look like her, but I don't know. Sean thinks it does. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, okay. So let me get back to the chat. To the chat. All right, let's see. Hang on one second.
back.
Let's go back. All right. Back to the WhatsApp. So I said, is that you? She goes, yep. I said, wow, that is so bizarre. I don't even have one with a pineapple. She goes, LOL, right? I couldn't believe it when I looked through today. Me circa 84, 85. 84, I think. Now, she's supposed to be 40 years old. Well, yeah. Not 84 then, sweethearts. I said, you're wearing jeans. I thought you were not allowed. She goes, ha 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 ha. I was a rebel. I had a pair of jeans and Converse shoes and a couple of t-shirts I would hide under my pillows so they couldn't be taken away. And I said, LOL. And she goes, always a big fight to put me in my dresses. Yeah, right. And then she sent me a picture of my mom, she said. Let me see. And this person really looks like her. Let me go get that. Doodly-doo, doodly-doo. Here we go. This is her mother, she says. Okay. And then she says, my mom, I said, very pretty. She said, I think that was before I was born. I said, I can see the resemblance. She said, oh yeah, cool. And then she said, me and my sister. Hang on, hang on, hang on. Totally got. Okay. Okay, so now let's go back. What's that? She says, me and my sister. I said, you are sitting, you look the same. She goes, I'm sitting, yes. I said, yes, you look like you do today. She goes, ha ha ha, my face hasn't changed at all. I said, no. She goes, ha 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 ha. That's why I still get carded wherever I go. Baby face, ha 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 ha. I said, LOL. She said, I only have about 10 photos and something got them out on Kust. I don't know. Been a long time. I just got them out. That's probably what she's trying to say. I forgot what my mom looked like. I said, glad you at least have them. She said, yeah. Sorry, that was random, but there you go. I said, your grandparents on both sides are deceased? She said, yes. She said, I don't remember them at all. They were much older. I said, I see. She said, I have a photo, though, of them on my mom's side. I think they were still alive when I was little on my mom's side, but I don't recall. She said, your stuff done? I said, LOL, some. Hardly much. Boys went to a friend's house for a couple of days, and I wrapped like 7 gifts, LOL. Maybe 10. I wonder whose house they went to. She goes, ha, ha, ha. I said, she goes, ha, ha, I guess gift bags. I said, no, I wrap them actually. Gift bags, or what I do when I'm frantic panic at the end. And I asked about that. That's private. I'm not going to put that there. Then she sent me a picture of the grandparents. And she said, found it. And she said that these were the grandparents. Okay. Okay. Let's see. And I don't know, the grandfather reminds me of, I don't know if it's somebody I've seen in person or not. Come on. Come on, people now. Okay, so back to what's up. So then she sends me, this is the song I sung and played on my wedding day. I'm not going to open that now. I said, beautiful song. Sorry I missed your calls. I was in Walmart and did not realize I was in Walmart. It was Christmas Eve. It was 5 a.m. So I guess it was the night before. Are you okay? She said, please don't worry about that. None of it is your fault. I'm okay. And she's writing all mashed, jumbly, goggly gook. I'm okay. I'm such a pain at the moment. Now, because it's Christmas Eve, let's ruin Carolyn's Christmas Eve, right, with her family. I'm in such a pain at the moment. I'm trying so hard not to be excited for my arrival today, though. I said, oh, I'm sorry you're in pain. I hope it passes. Is that the swelling? She said, yeah, but I meant being a pain as a person, a pain in the butt. I said, what are you, a pain? You're not a pain. She goes, oh, I hope so. I said, you aren't. Are you feeling okay? Not bad, so bad like the other day, I hope. She goes, thank you for being such a good friend. I feel terrible today. My head's so bad, but I'll be okay. I cried a lot. I think it makes it worse. I said, I don't feel like such a good friend. I missed phone calls. I forget to do certain things. I'm terrible at sending things out on time. I feel like most times I'm lacking my stupidity to even have the shoes where Desi got them, but they were in another room. He does not go in, but somebody left the door open, and I will leave me for a minute. I didn't even notice. That's so terrible. I hate that you're in so much pain today. Is there anything I can do to help? She said, you're a wonderful friend. You've saved my life, and I'm so grateful for you. I said, why were you calling? For something wrong, or you just wanted to talk? You cried a lot because of being alone, looking at all the pictures? She goes, I had a bad thought. Here we go. It's Christmas Eve. We're going to have bad thoughts. I said, oh, no. You should have called the other numbers. I'm sorry I didn't hear my phone. It doesn't ring, and my watch usually vibrates, but I didn't feel it. She goes, I know. I talked to myself. It's okay. I don't like bothering you. I said, you're not bothering me, especially if something's not right. She goes, especially over the holidays. I don't want to bring you down. I said, no, I want to know if something's wrong. Does it make you sad to go through the pictures? She goes, okay, yes, it did, but I needed to because I couldn't remember what my mom looked like, and I really wanted to know. Yesterday, I haven't looked at them in so many years. It made me smile, but then it was sad. It felt good to show you, though, to share them. I said, yes, I know. How old was your mother when she died? Hold on a second, I want to go back. I have to get a cracker because I took my vitamins before I came on and I'm feeling sick to my stomach. Okay, so just hold on for a minute. I just have to get something. I have to get a cracker or something or I'm going to be in trouble. And that won't be good at all. Maybe I'll get an orange. That won't be so crunchy. Let me see. Let me get an orange. I need something to eat right away, otherwise I'm going to be throwing up. We don't want that. Hold on, I almost got my orange all peeled. We're going to go back. Remember, it's Christmas Eve. It's 5 a.m. She won't freaking let me sleep. Okay? The girl is insane. She is so selfish. She is so horrible. And she was in my life for 2 freaking Christmases. Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, so she said, in her mid-30s. I said, and you and your sister were the only children? She goes, I don't know her date of birth, so I'm not exactly sure. She goes, yes. Then she asks me, you sorted now? I said, sorted with what? Do you mean everything done? She goes, Christmas, yes. I said, so that I can give you a big hearty laugh? Not even close. She goes, LOL. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I said, why are you sorry? You didn't cause me to be behind. Story of my life. She goes, haha, okay, I'm so sorry still because I'm sorry for everything is what I do. I said, what a team we make. She said, haha, yep. Great pairing that was. I said, I hope you feel better enough to open your package. So she said, me too. I was going to go to the hospital, but I'll wait. This might cure me. I said, I'm sure Cecilia's had quite the trip. I said, oh no, you were going to go to the hospital? It must have been really, really bad. She said, yeah, I'm sure she has. I can't wait to have her back. She said, yeah, I'm not too well, but I'll be okay. I said, get the hot water bottle ready. I'm sure she's probably had a frigid cold drunk journey. Not drunk, LOL. She said, okay, fire up the kettle. I said, ha 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 ha. I said, bounced around in the dark, in the cold. She'll be glad to see you. She goes, I hope so. I could cry. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. If I'd have never bought her, I'm sure. Thank you. XXXXX. I said, I'm glad I could get her for you. She was meant to be. She says, I don't deserve her at all, but I'll look after her. She doesn't deserve her at all. Probably didn't even like dolls. Poor doll. I feel so bad for that doll. I said, you do deserve her. You need her, and she needs you. She goes, thank you. She goes, I wish I could have given, I said, I wish I could have given to her, I wish I could have given you her in person. She said, I know, right? It's time we meet, lady. I said, yes, it is. She said, I'm working on it. I said, I cannot believe Kaz sent the stuff. That is what I mean about me being such a horrible friend. I feel terrible. I'm going to just increase my Patreon to her each month and probably send her a gift card as well. And then she says, oh, she doesn't expect anything. She says, LOL, you got there. I said, yep, persistence. She says, you're not a bad friend. She wanted to do that for ages. It's because you are a lovely person and friend that she did that. I said, that's nice, but I always feel like a crappy friend. I said, Jeff is a mess too. You can't believe the emails. She says, oh, I was going to ask, how is he doing? I said, about not having pain meds and about how are you was doing, I don't know what the heck I'm saying here. She said, what? I said, yeah, crazy stuff. She said, how would he even know how to do that? I said, tell me. He was going to look at a pill identifier. Oh gosh, I said, but then he got somewhere and the lady gave him morphine, but they wouldn't give him any more pain pills because Jeff was really dying of cancer, okay? And Jeff died. And Jeff still didn't bother me the way Jaybells did. And Jeff called me. I was one of the last persons he spoke to. And he told me they had pineapple jello at the hospital. And he told me that, Carol and I'm going to come on the show and we're going to laugh again. I'm going to get through this. And Jeff died, okay? So I said, but they wouldn't give him any pain pills. And then I think he was going somewhere else. And then I'll forward you the emails. You can look at them, but I don't know what to do. I said, I can't even get back to the messages. And she said, you can do anything, really. You can't do anything, really. She said, oh, dear. Then I said, maybe I need to. It's funny. It's really, really funny. When I was in real estate, there was this house. Well, actually an entire property. It used to be an old rooming house. It was huge. Just this house was huge. And this one old woman lived in it all alone. And I can't even tell you, you know how many rooms there were in this place. If you get me, that was like a hotel, okay? And she had this one area, she made like a very small apartment, but I mean, this had stairways in it. You couldn't believe it's okay. Then it had horse paddocks and barns and outbuildings and acres of land. And a priest from New Jersey put an offer in on it, and she accepted it. And he was going to buy it and make a retreat for priests, you know, who referred down or needed a rest, whatever. And he would call me because he was always like having second thoughts. And then he would apologize. But then right before we went to closing, my sister called me and she's like, oh my gosh, isn't that Father Michael in Wyckoff, the priest that bought it? And I'm like, yeah, why? And she goes, oh my gosh, he's in trouble. I don't know, something with kids, right? And he was a young priest. And I mean, he told me his whole life history. He told me how he was abused by his mother and his father tried to keep the peace and his mother would do crazy things like make him kneel on rice for hours at a time. I mean, just crazy stuff, right? And I was like, crap. Because now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if I hit it big, I'll buy a place like that. Maybe even that place if it's still for sale. And open up a retreat house with a staff to help all the people that keep coming my way. people that are escaping their narcissistic husbands, people that are lonely, people that are suffering. Oh, yeah, because I had someone else messaging me. So then she goes, right, and see what a lovely thought. Then I said, it would be like a modern day hippie commune. They were so popular up here, and there are so many properties like that up here. They could all pitch together and grow huge gardens during the summer, and then everything for over the winter, and then there could be animals like horses, and they could help take care of everything and ride them and grow extra stuff to bring to the farmer's market so they could have extra money, and then they could make crafts to sell at the craft fair. Wouldn't that be great? And they would all work together and help each other. She goes, now, then you would be called a cult leader. Ha 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 ha, don't drink the Kool-Aid. I said, yes, my own cult. Or it could be like Dr. Phil's retreat house. Doesn't he have one? Could hire someone to come in and do group therapy. And then she goes, oh, I'm not too sure. And then I said, I was talking about some YouTube therapists. Okay. La 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 la. So now, let's see. I saw that hideous sculpture, whatever the heck it was. I don't know what the heck we're talking about there. Let's see. She said, all right, sweetie, I hope you feel better. She said, I'm thinking I'm going to pass out. Actually, maybe you are too as well. 6:29 a.m., right? She said, I'm going to have to close my eyes again so I don't hurl again. I said, all right, sweetie, I hope you feel better, and I hope you feel better. Thanks, she said, for the chat. She said, thanks. I hope you get some sleep. Have a nice day. Loves you. I said, you're welcome. She said, so the mail guy came earlier and didn't bring her. She said, to boot, the hookups came back yesterday morning, and I haven't stopped in 31 hours. Oh my gosh, be quiet. And I said, what? The tracking says she's there. She goes, what? Can you send me the screenshot? So I could try to figure it out. I said, are you freaking kidding me? Okay, I'll have it in a second. She said, I'm having a panic attack now. I hope she's okay. I said, Jimmy's sending it to you through Messenger. I don't understand what happened. She said, okay, thanks. She says, don't worry, it'll be okay. I said, yeah, but I just can't believe this. She said, hey, it's okay. I checked the tracking. It's at the depot. She just means that it won't come until the 27th now, she said. I think. I said, oh, no. I don't understand that. Why, I have a picture of the address. I know, and Jimmy does too. I said, I'm going to check. Something is really crazy. She says, well, fingers crossed, because the tracking suggests she isn't lost, just waiting. But you know, the kicker, I live 2 minutes walk from the depot. I said, oh, she's not lost, she is there. Is it closed now? Won't be open on the 26th? She said, I cannot believe it. She said, yeah, it closed at 4 today, closed 2 days, 26th is a national holiday. I said, crap. She said, it's okay. At least she's safe. I walk Elvis past the depot every day. I'll say hi. Not your fault. It's crappy Christmas mailing. That's all. I said, LOL. Yeah, she's there. I wish I could have got that to you before they closed. She said, that's okay. No problem at all. Without you, I wouldn't have her ever. So I can wait a couple more days. I said, I so hate that it seems like even the smallest things can't go right. She said, right? What's going right like these days? I said, I don't know. I'm really pissed. She said, oh no, everything okay? I got the photos out yesterday because certain things, there's a picture of me with Cecilia when I was about 3 or 4. I can't find it though. Yeah, sure. There was never one. Then she shows me something about Sasha dolls. I said, I saw that. She goes, Buona Natale. It's December 25th. I said, morte stanco, which means I'm dead tired, in Italian. I said, I just finished being elves. Cannot believe the day. And then she goes, oh, wow, ha, ha, ha. I said, my feet are numb. She goes, you finished dinner then, ha, ha, I said, LOL, we had pizza. She goes, stick the hot water bottle on your trotters, LOL. I said, dinner tomorrow. The boys bought pizza. She goes, ah, nice. I said, they didn't leave till 3:30 in the morning. It was nice time. A lot of 90 Day Fiance binge watching. She said, good times then, but also piss off so you can get your Santa on. Perfect. Wow, that was so nasty. You nasty lady. I was enjoying my sons. Get out of here with your piss off. What a jerk. I said, I won't even tell you what time we had Luke's birthday cake. She goes, oh, ha, ha, ha. Well, yes, I saw you tell everyone to just blow the candles out so you can go live. What? The hell is she talking about? What a jerk. I said, tomorrow will be more relaxing. I think we're going to have a regular late dinner, probably around 6 or 7, charting for baking. I want to bake a little more tomorrow. My aunt is up, so go see my aunt and my cousins for a little bit. And I just want to go to the cemetery and put flowers and candles on my parents' graves. And then I just want to sit out and put my feet up and have coffee and look at the tree and just freak out. She says, sounds absolutely splendid, my friend. Lovely stuff. I said, you should see what my kitchen looked like earlier today. It literally looked like it exploded. I had everything out, and I mean everything. I had flowers from one end to the other. I had all the cabinets open, everything out. My boys came in, and they were looking at cards that were sent to me from YouTubers, and one of them said, here, this is for your fake kitchen. And they go to me, what do they mean by fake kitchen? They say it's a fake kitchen because it's so clean, it looks so nice, and they both look at me and they rolled their eyes at me. These are my boys. I'm talking about Ray and Michael, okay? And when they came in on me, gosh, we were in such a wreck, right? We got it together by the time we had the cake, but when they came in, it really looked like an explosion. And the first thing I say is, don't just put those pizzas down anywhere. We've been cleaning all day. And she goes, oh, ha, 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 it all came together. You have to feel like you've worked for your rest, obviously. I said, yeah, except every year we always lose presents we put away. So Luke comes down this morning, right, and says, I hope Santa remembers the snow pants. Guess what we can't find? The snow pants. She goes, oh, right, haha, right, typical. I said, Jimmy saying all kinds of prayers to St. Anthony. I said, in 2016 or 2015, we misplaced 2 Angry Birds, and to this day we have not found them. She goes, LOL, that's hilarious. See? That's what being organized and doing things in advance gets ya. I said, they're all sitting in a black hole with the elves on the shelf and the snow pants and the Adidas shirts. She goes, oh, still no elves? I said, no, but he found the nativity pieces that my daughter brought me back from Mexico. She says, oh, that's something. I said, he was looking for those for the last 2 days. She said, you'll buy new elves for next year and you'll find them. I said, did you already have your treatment? How did it go? How are you feeling? She goes, yes, I did. It was okay. I had a nap when I got home. There were lots of families with their kids there for people have radiation as well, and the staff were quite Christmassy. Poor kids having treatment on Christmas Day. I said, that's nice, the staff is Christmassy. Yeah, poor kids. She goes, yeah, they tried to lessen the blow. They had some crackers and things and games in the waiting room. It was cute. I said, that's sweet. I remember when my son was going for radiation, he was like the youngest one going in there. And one of the receptionists came over to me and she said, when your son walks in, my heart stops because he's about the same age as my daughter. And I can't imagine because, you know, she didn't know what he had. And she was really, really upset. And then my son was telling me that she was saying something like, I have a daughter, she would love you, but they were always really sweet. She said, oh, I said, I was so clueless as to what kind of radiation would do, as in make him tired or anything. And he kept up with as usual. And I remember he would even jump over like the little railing to get into the door. But one thing it did do is because he got it on his neck, like on the side of his neck, and I guess near his jaw, it destroyed some of his teeth, the nerves. I mean, he needed like 3 root canals on that side. She said, right, I see. Yeah, well, as far as damage goes, that's pretty good going. He did great. I said, he only had 17 days, so they said he didn't need radiation for Saturday, but I asked his oncologist what he would do if it was his son, and he said he would do the 17 days of prophylactic radiation. Then she said, I'm having a mimosa. I won't do a Kaz though. She put that on, there's like a Christmas thing on the TV. I said, what is that in the mimosa? Is that orange juice and what else? And she said, Prosecco. So basically champagne, but made in Italy, not France. I said, I see. Well, we're going to be going to town with our sparkling red and white grape juice later on today. She said, ha ha ha, nice. I said, I'll try not to get carried away. She goes, yeah, steady on. I said, oh my gosh, it was so funny. I don't know how the conversation started, but my son Ray said something about the reason there are so many telemarketers, and that snowballed into something about colonization, and my daughter went nuts, so it reminded me of a panel on YouTube. She was like saying, let me answer, stop talking over me, but they really weren't, and she was just going crazy. And so I, safe in the kitchen, oh my gosh, you should go to the drama community, you would love it. I said, she didn't like that. And then the 3 of them started at it, so Jimmy went down to the basement, and then there's like silence, and then Jimmy starts coming up the steps going, what happened? Are they dead? Did someone get shot? And she said, hello, haha. She said, I teach a class on post-colonialism, and with my, you do not teach anything with my religion and global politics MA students. You don't even have an MA, you lying sack of crap. It always ends up a battle. Oh wow, would it be Christmas without a debate? Ha ha ha, awkward turtle. I said, oh my gosh, it was so crazy. Then I brought it up later because I really wasn't sure what they were talking about. And then it set my daughter off again. I said, she goes, oh, I bet they were like side-eyeing. Way to go, Mom. I said, yeah, because I hadn't heard about it. Let's see. So then she put something on, and she said, that's the scene I was telling you about, defrosting the turkey in the bath. Needless to say, I forgot to get my meat out of the freezer last night. Okay, and then she said, it's a trashy British show. I said, LOL. She said, Kaz told me the components of a British Christmas dinner, so I'm making Yorkshire puddings for the first time. I said, oh, so was the Queen and Prince Charles. Who makes the figgy pudding that they sing of? She says, oh, right, yeah, oh, I got some fig stuff. It was gross, fig roll. It was like a treacle wrapped in a doormat. I said, well, bring us some figgy pudding. Oh, bring us, I think people really know. Bring us, I think you believe me, and bring it right here. Oh, I think I was singing this song, and I said, it's such a nasty song. Oh my gosh, I said that singing to text at work, that did not work. She goes, ha ha ha, laughing at my head off. I said, that is the rudest song though. Come to my door demanding figgy pudding that I don't even have, and then to bring it to them right now when they're not leaving. We won't go until we get some. So she goes, it totally is. Ha ha, very rude. I said, now, she said, now that's in my head for the rest of the day. I said, like that guy that came to your house for the beer. How did he get in your house again? Did he just walk in? Oh, I forgot that about this beer, she said. Did he just walk in and you had the door open? She goes, the door was open because I was dog sitting and I let the dog out while I nipped to the bathroom. I said, okay, right. Good job. I didn't leave the bathroom door open. That would have been awful. Like it wasn't enough already. She goes, the best thing was I missed out. I had non-alcoholic beer in the fridge that I gave him. LOL. Ridiculous, she said. We got a chain lock fitted after that, and another Yale. I said, I bet Fort Knox after that. She said, I didn't want him coming back, demanding more beers. Ha ha ha. I felt sorry for him, though, but, like, sorry, and get out of my house. I said, yeah, like those carolers. He could have waited on the stoop and waited for you to bring it out to him. She goes, right, yes, have some manners. Now bring me another beer, and bring me another beer. Now bring me another beer, and leave it right here. She goes, thanks. Crap for the golf clubs in the hallway, and to think I could have kept asking him to put them in the attic for months. Ha 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 ha. I said, let's see. She said, LOL. And she said, okay. Let's see. I got her nothing. Let's see. Now most of the time he gets his big stuff himself. We're talking about Christmas presents, and I get him like little things like Jimi Hendrix shirts and goofy socks. I mean goofy, like Disney goofy. She goes, right, LOL, yeah, nice. I always got Ali socks and ties, ha ha ha. I said, I wonder how things are between these two, if it doesn't sound so good. She said, but we always did a big gift. I got him a guitar one year. Then he had already tried out in the January before, so a year prior. It was unexpected. I could not top that again, so kept his socks. I said, oh, that's sweet about the guitar and stuff. Yeah, I get the same impression about these people. Okay. Okay, I'm talking about something here. It's private. Then she said, okay, sweetie, have a lovely day. A lovely and a great day. Love you. And then she put a picture of Elvis. Yes, I'm a 10-year-old. I didn't know he was 10. I forgot. I thought he was something. Then December 26th. Okay, so just letting you know I'm not doing great. I took a turn in the night. My treatment has to be put on hold until my levels come back up. Don't worry, though. It's all fixable, and I'm obviously able to write, so it's all okay. And just to look out for a number, if you got a call from and she puts the number, or perhaps private, it would be the hospital. Just FYI, not that you're going to. I said, are you in the hospital? She goes, I was. I said, when? Yesterday on Christmas? She goes, no, well, in the night. I'm okay, like I said. Don't worry. I said, what do you mean levels? What levels? She goes, my CBC came back very low. So my white blood cell count and my red blood cell count. I got very dizzy last night and it felt like I couldn't breathe. I said, oh my gosh, did you call the ambulance? She said, so they did my bloods and they said they were low, so susceptible to infection and anemia. They've given me some medication, which seems to have helped to stimulate cell growth. She goes, yes, I did. My chest got tight. I was like, come the freak on. But it was quite short-lived. It was okay. Nothing super serious, just initially scary. So don't worry. I actually get a few days off treatment until my bloods come back up to a safe level. Of course, that sounds terrifying. I know the time I was having a panic attack, my contractor was putting me through the hell, and I thought I was having a heart attack, and I felt dizzy, and it ended up I was anemic as well. That's so scary. She says, so I said, so how long are they putting off your treatment? A day or two or more than that? She goes, oh my gosh, yeah, right, that's scary. I thought my heart was stopping too. Well, I go in on Friday for another round of blood tests, and if they haven't come up, it may require a transfusion. They are seeing if the meds can work that will stimulate the cell growth work first. Oh, wow, I said, so they're stopping the chemo as well? She said, but they said home is the safest place because of the risk of infection. So they've given me all sorts of instructions and antibiotics stuff to stay safe at home. Yes, no chemo. I said, it's okay. She said, it's okay. They say this happens. It's not uncommon. They said the rest will help. She said they think the stress of the holidays is contributing to, and the grief all lowers defenses. How are you doing? Did you have a lovely holiday? I said, oh wow, had to be really scary. I'm okay. My hours are all thrown off like crazy. She said, yeah, but it's okay. I'm good now. Just feel like I have zero energy whatsoever. I bet. All out of whack. I was going to say, you're either up super early or you haven't slept. I said, is B around to walk Elvis for you? She said, nope, she's not, but I have an alternate I can use. I said, oh, that's good. And what about someone to make you like iron-rich food and everything, I guess, you could order in? Do you want something with really good nutrition? She said, they gave me some advice, but I have completely blanked on what they suggested as food. So iron-rich, okay, I can look that up. Okay. She said, oh, yeah. I said, well, obviously, leafy greens. I know, like my anemia, spinach, and, well, if you eat liver, but I don't eat liver, I believe almonds. She goes, oh, yeah, I don't eat liver, but I love spinach. I said, maybe that bone broth that is so popular now, and people are drinking and buying it off of food trucks, especially in the city. People make it on their own. It's supposed to be very good. I made it for Zoe. She said, okay, thanks. I'll see what delivers because, yeah, I'm wiped out. But I'm sure I can make stuff in a bit if I can get things delivered. I said, thanks. Did it make you tired? No, then she goes, thanks. Did it make you tired too? Did that take long to subside? I said, the anemia caused a lot of issues for me, and my sister had it too. And the funny thing was, when both of us, at how low we were, they couldn't believe we were doing the things we were doing. I mean, we were very, very close, both of us, to needing a transfusion. But the things we did, but the thing is, we didn't even notice. She goes, okay. I said, what is this shortness of breath? I mean, I don't know if you remember this summer when I was not taking my iron, I noticed right away when I started to walk up my driveway, which is quite a hill, I get like lightheaded and I feel like I can't get my breath. I would get pains like in my calves. She goes, right, I remember. I said, my hair would even start to fall out a little bit. I said, she goes, oh my gosh. She goes, well, my hair needs no more help to fall out. I'm trying to stick it back on. She said, okay, so I'll follow the orders to a T. At first I thought I was having a panic attack, but then my chest was so tight I felt to my damn knees, so I don't want that again. No mail here, by the way, but it starts up again tomorrow. I reckon she will come then. Thank you for the help. I appreciate it. I said, oh yeah, I had very bad tightness in my chest, like a pain actually. Thought I was having a heart attack, and then I was getting very dizzy. She said, scary. I said, yeah, I was terrified until the paramedics got here and they hooked me up to the EKG, and she said, it's not your heart. And she said, right, relief. And they said to me, it just makes your, she said, it just makes your body work about 50 times harder. I'm like, yeah, just nothing. I said, right, because you don't have the oxygen you need from your cells. She said, right. She said, okay, limited delivery today with it being a holiday, but I can get stuff in a few hours. I said, oh, okay, what holiday is it? Boxing Day? Do you celebrate that there? She said, Boxing Day, yes. I said something. She said, apparently, I said, what is kind of crap is that? She said, apparently it's traditionally a day for the servants of the aristocracy, etc., to have the day off serving their masters after Christmas. I said, I see. She said, but it's a national holiday. Some stores are open, but national things like doctor's office, dentists, mail, public transportation don't run. I'm most upset the mail isn't running. I said, yeah, me too. She said, okay. Public transport does have limited service. She said, Jimmy sent me a message apologizing today. She said, all is well. It's not a problem. A reason to get up tomorrow. I said, oh, did he? Did he still blame an X that he said looked like a Y? LOL. She said, he did the other day, but this message, he said everything that could have gone effing gone wrong did go wrong, and it's effing BS. I'm so sorry. Ha ha ha. It made me laugh my head off. LOL. I said, LOL. He didn't say that word. He said BS. My phone corrected to add the profanity then. I said, did Santa bring you anything? Oh, she said, did Santa bring you anything nice? I said, well, you remember that Jimmy bought me that other Fitbit thing, and I told him I really didn't want it, and I wanted a mirrorless camera. So I ended up, with the mirrorless camera, which I got right before Christmas, right? She goes, ah, yes, right. And then I said, and then you wouldn't believe they went, and when I said Jimmy and Luke went to Tractor Supply, they went to get dog food, and Jimmy got me this set of small tools and 2 box knives kinds of things because he says I don't have anything to open boxes. And then they put it in a gift bag under the tree. LOL. She said, haha. I said, my daughter got me 2 Peanuts ornaments because she's still knitting the other ones. Peanuts? I don't know what that is. I said, Ethan regifted me a Christmas Snoopy. Snoopy Charlie Brown is Peanuts. She goes, LOL, okay. And I said, I ordered myself a few brands of things that I know that I put under the tree. That way that there's something that I know that I want. Or I said random, not brand. And then she goes, ah, nice, I like that idea. And I said, I always act really surprised when I open them. And I put there from Santa. I said, so this year it was a set of microphone muffs, 1 furry and 1 foam. Then a set of 3 Pioneer Woman retro tin canisters. Ethan was regifted with the Fitbit. She goes, oh, nice. Oh, well, and she goes, haha, I bought myself one thing, a chef's knife. One of those super sharp blades. I've wanted one for like 20 years, one for like 100 pounds. But in the end, I got one for 30 pounds because why on earth would I spend 100 pounds on myself? And then, I don't know, I left a message here, but I don't know. She goes, what mic you buy your muffs for? And then there's a bunch of things from me. She said, I'm laughing my head off. Ha, 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 ha. I don't know what, there's all these sound bites. She said, that'll be running thing for a long time now, forevermore. Heart pizza. Oh, I'm telling her about the heart pizza stuff that I got my boys. I think that was it.
I mean, the kids really liked it, but it was funny. It was very funny. And then, I got them, they weren't telling me what the heck they wanted this year, so I got them a bunch of clothing, which worked out well. They liked it. It's always like a crapshoot, but, they did. And then at the end, there were these pizza throws that I got. Really nice, like really... My Blue Yeti. I bought them for my Blue Yeti. I just had to get my charger. My phone died. But, so then I kept saying to my daughter, I can't wait to see what we were regifted. Maybe you got his old electric toothbrush. But then the funniest thing was at the end of the night, I remember that they hadn't opened these pizza throws that I got them. I got them these really, really nice pizza throws, like the minky plush, really nice. And the reason I got them is because they had pizza on them, and they have, an Italian restaurant and a pizzeria. So I thought, oh, these are nice, and these will be nice on their couch because they bought a new couch last year, right, for their living room. And so I got them both the same ones. And so they one of them opened it, and the other one, he was like, Mom, pizza. Heart-shaped pizza. And I was like, yeah, they're nice. And they said, they were heart-shaped pizzas. And they say, you had me at pizza, right? So he's like, wow, okay. And I'm like, but aren't they really nice? Feel how soft they are. Would you like those on the couch? And I said, at least, and so at this time, he didn't know that I got Ray the same one. So he's looking at me like I'm crazy, right? But I'm like, isn't it really soft? Aren't they really nice? So he's like, yeah. And then my other son opens his. And he's like, you got us the same one. And I said, yes, I wanted them to coordinate, so it'll look nice if you both have them on the couch. And so then Jimmy goes, she got them buy one, get one free, which is not true, but it was hysterical when he said that. And everybody started laughing like crazy, right? And then everybody started talking about the throws and saying that something like, oh, well, I got, because he said something like, when he was talking about the regifting, I said, and they were taking them, we were saying it was going to be like a Curb Your Enthusiasm kind of thing. Like he was going to give them, let's just say, to someone else in the restaurant, right? And then I would come by and I'd see that person, like they would have loved the throw so much, like they made it into some kind of a pizza coat. And then I would see them on the street and be like, hey, where'd you get that? And then they would say something, that wouldn't lead me to that it was Michael that gave it to them, and that I would demand to see Michael's throws. And oh my gosh, it got so involved. And then at the end, he was forgetting the one throw. So I'm like, oh my gosh, you forgot these. And I said, you could have said, oh my gosh, isn't this a coincidence? I got you guys the same ones. You know what? I'll just leave these here and I'll just take the ones that I have out in the car. It was so funny though. Oh my gosh. It was like probably a half an hour on those pizza throws. And I'm like, they're really nice. I can't believe you guys. The ladies love those things. And they're like, the ladies. I'm like, yeah, well, they're nice. They're color coordinated, and they look nice with your couch. He was like, Mom, heart-shaped pizzas? I'm like, I thought you would love those.
She said, haha, that'll be a running thing now forevermore.
Oh, I know. It was hysterical, especially when he mentioned these two people at the restaurant. And I'm just like, that is such a Curb Your Enthusiasm kind of thing, just say, like, they're like, the people that he gives them to, like, would be like, wow, these are really nice. These are nice. I'm going to put a button on it and wear it as some kind of a cape. And then I would see them on the street and be like, hey, did you see Renato? He looked like he was wearing that pizza throw I got you. You didn't re-gift the pizza throw to Renato, did you? And then, like, the other one would be worn by somebody else, and and Mike would be like, dang, why did they have to wear them out of the house? Why did they have to make them into those scapegoats? And then I would keep going to the apartment, demanding to see the throws, being like, where are the throws? I'd like to arrange them on the couch. Oh, Ray's got them. He's washing them at the laundromat. At the laundromat? Why are you using a laundromat? Oh, because our washing machine is broken. And it would be a different story every time I came over. Where are the pizza throws? I'm a little chilly. Can you bring me a pizza throw? Oh, yeah, but you're not going to believe this. We put them in the car because, just in case you ever get stuck stranded out there. And Mike's got the car, and he's in the city.
She said, LOL, the saga continues. Brotherhood of the traveling pizza throw. And say, I thought I did this on the phone with her. I didn't know I did this in sound bites.
I know. I thought they'd really like them because they're so soft and cozy. I don't know. That was hysterical. And then when he was saying at the end, he's like something like, well, I've got your stuff. I'm like, yeah, you got our stuff. It's out in the car. You need help carrying it in. All right, hurry up. Jimmy, get your coat on. Mike's got the really big presents for all of us in the car. And then I don't know how it came up, but somebody mentioned something about they got the throws. And I said, oh my gosh, you're so crazy. All you had to say was, you know what? You're not going to believe this. I saw those throws and I just loved them. Can you believe I got you guys the same throws? The same ones, one for each of you. So you know what? Look, you just hold these inside and I'll just take those up to the apartment because it'll be easier. And then, oh my gosh, and then everybody lost it. Oh, and then my daughter got them each coats, right? These jacket coats at Banana Republic. And so when my son Michael's opening his, he liked it and everything, but he's talking about it. Oh, it has an inside it has 2 inside pockets. I like inside pockets. I really like the material of this. And my daughter goes like this, oh, it has inside pockets? How many? And he's like, 2. And she's like, oh, let me feel that material. Can I feel it for a minute? Because I really didn't look at it much. And I'm like, that's nice, Mike. She really didn't look at it much. What was she like? Oh, what is that jacket over there? Is that a medium? How much is it? 60% off? Wrap it up. I'm getting it for my brother. I'm like, she put a lot of thought in that, Mike. She didn't even know what the hell it looked like or what it felt like. And then Jimmy and I went to town acting that one out for a while, What? I don't know what to get my brothers. I don't know. I'm going crazy. What's that over there on the clearance rack? Is that a medium? Wrap it up, throw it in the bag.
She said, ha ha ha, such care and attention to detail. I love it, ha ha ha.
And then Jimmy and I went to town acting that one out.
She said, sounds like you had a blast.
Just so flipping funny at the end. Especially, Jimmy started off by saying she got to buy one, get one free. And I'm like, I did not. I wanted them to coordinate. And I really didn't get them buy one, get one free. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, for these pizza throws. And then when they left, they forgot so much stuff. So the one thing, there was one throw that they forgot. So I'm screaming, Luca, did it? No, they didn't. I'm like, they forgot their pizza throw. So Luke and Jimmy went running out to the car with the pizza throw. And I'm like, oh my gosh. It was hysterical. It was hysterical. But yeah, those pizza throws will be, I'm sure, conversation for a long time. Heart-shaped pizzas, Mom. Yes, Michael, they're nice. The girls will love them. Can't handle it. Oh my gosh. I was just so happy to find something with what am I going to find? I'm not going to find a lot of Italian restaurant stuff. I found the pizzas. It looked perfect. Next year I should look for pizza pillows like slices of pizza. Wouldn't that be neat? They'd like that. Better yet, heart-shaped pillows shaped like that are pizzas.
She says heart-shaped pillow pizzas and heart-shaped slippers and robes and a rug.
Coordinating towel.
Coordinating towels, I said. She said make heart-shaped pizza for Christmas dinner.
Coordinating towel ensemble for the bath. Bath towels, hand towels, washcloths, shower curtain, bath rugs.
She goes, LOL, you'll never be stuck for gifts again.
No, I'll be picking up anything and everything pizza. It would be really funny if they had a girl over the house and she's like, I love this throw. Where'd you get this? And he'd be like, oh, you like that? Yeah. I saw those. You like oh, they're really soft? You like that? He would be like all over that he got them or something. If somebody he liked them. Oh my gosh.
She said, oh yes, ha ha, hilarious. And then...
And the girl kept coming back because of the pizza throw. You know, like, that would be like a Curb Your Enthusiasm thing. Hey, Liz, what are you doing? Not much, Michael. Do you still have that throw? Oh, there it is. I'm just going to sit down and watch a little Netflix. And she'd wrap the throw on, and then she'd leave. And then if he didn't have the throw, she just left.
And then, so then she sent me a picture of this heart-shaped pizza thing. I said, oh, that's great. She said, and so it begins. Get the word out to all extended family. I heard you like heart-shaped pizza, soft furnishings.
Right through a gift registry with nothing but pizza items on it.
Then she sent me a Amazon Love Pizza Bath. I don't know what that was, like a puzzle. Then I sent something, you had me at pizza throw. Then she said, that set needs to be gift boxes, all fancy with ribbon and tissue paper, handed over, proud as punch with a poker face. And then I found a pizza bathrobe. We just kept going through this. It was all pizza stuff.
You know what would be great? If one of the guys that he gave the pizza throw to, ends up, I don't know, escaping, like some car thing or like his house catching on fire. And he's out there being interviewed by the news wearing the pizza throw, right? And they'll be like, sir, how did you make it out of your house unscathed? It was the pizza throw. I swear this is magic, right? And I'll be like, I saw Renato on the news with the pizza throw. You gave it to him?
She said, ha 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 ha, hysterical.
Yes, Mom. And if I hadn't, he wouldn't be alive today. It's a magic throw.
And then she sent me a picture of a wedding dress that was a huge pizza, and the train went into a pizza. She goes, start this and end up with a daughter-in-law and a wedding album like this. I said, did you just buy the chef's knife? And then she said, Mom, the throw was a gateway. I don't know. A gateway. I said, OMG, and to think it all started with a throw. She goes, I ordered it before Christmas, LOL.
Absolutely loved that Christmas throw. And it led to this.
She said, ha 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 ha, and then she put, and the groom's attire to match. Oh my gosh, the British Christmas dinner is humongous. I ate a quarter of what I freaking put on my plate, but Yorkshire puddings are the bomb. Oh my goodness, I meant to say something. Did you see somebody's post from yesterday? I said, no, I did not. Did you get it delivered, the dinner? She goes, no, I made it. Gosh, it was sad. She was saying she was so depressed. Okay, I don't know what she's talking about. I said, I just saw it. She said she must have been desperate, poor thing. Let me see here. Then she says, just had a seizure, I think, so telling you I'll write it down tomorrow. I said, oh no, how bad? She said, I was in bed and then I was on the floor. I'm not sure. I'm a bit fuzzy. I will update my diary tomorrow. Sorry for bothering you. Just letting you know. I said, oh, wow, you're not bothering me. Are you okay now? She said, yes. I said, okay, well, that's good. Are you going to sleep now? She said, I'm okay, just wiped out. She said, yes. And night, good night, I love you. She said, night, love you. I said good night to you, she's saying to me, this is her. And then I don't remember what happened. I had a terrible nightmare that I had my baby, and it was a he, and he died. It felt so real. I said, oh, wow. You said you had a seizure before. She says, I did? Why? Oh, my gosh. Something's not right, isn't it? She said, maybe I go to sleep and wake up again. I don't feel like everything is right. I think maybe I'm not well or something. I feel terrible. I said, your blood counts are low. Remember? She goes, I do? What's happening to me? I said, do you remember where you are? She said, yes, I'm in London. I think I need to go get checked out for the baby. I said, do you know what month it is? She goes, it's May. I said, no, it's not. Turn on your light. She goes, okay. She goes, wait. So something isn't right. My belly, what? I said, do you see what month it is now? She goes, yes, but my baby, what's wrong? Everything is all wrong. I said, you're just having a little problem with your memory. She goes, okay, like what? I'm losing my mind? I said, no, you're not losing your mind. She goes, did I get sick and they took my baby away? I said, it's just the medication. It's just the medication is causing you to have some memory lapses. She goes, I'm not pregnant anymore. Or wait, is it December 2018? I said, no, 2019. And she goes, oh gosh, my nightmare. Oh gosh. I said, are you remembering? She goes, I'm sorry. I think I'm losing my mind. She goes, I've got to go to sleep and wake up. And she's writing all scrambled. And she goes, I have everything normal again. I don't like this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I sound nuts. I can hardly breathe, so I need to calm down. I said, you're not nuts. Do you want to go to sleep? She goes, I'm sorry. I said, don't worry about it. It's not. It's nothing. It's not your nuts. She goes, I'm sorry. I'm not usually like this. I think maybe I'm not well. I'm sorry. I said, well, you're sick, Genevieve. Do you have to rest and get better? She goes, I'm sick? Do I have dementia? I said, you don't have dementia. You're like having memory problems. You forget some things. But you're also sick and your body is very weak. She goes, okay. Sounds like I'm losing it though. Oh, okay. Am I dying? I said, you have anemia. Your blood levels are very low. She says, I feel like it's, okay. Then I said, do you have to go back to the doctor on Friday? You do? She goes, I'm not all right now. I don't seem to know anything. I would write in my diary. I write everything in my diary. I said, are you reading your diary? She said, 12 p.m. I said, no, it's 7 a.m. I said, can you see out your window? Son? She goes, not in my diary. I've written for the doctors. My phone says today is the 27th of December. That's right, isn't it? She goes, the other days are crossed out. I said, yes, it's the 27th. She says, okay, so it says hospital, 12 p.m. I said, why don't you just give yourself some time and you will get to the hospital today at 12. She goes, what do you mean? I said, do you know what hospital you have to go to? She goes, like sleep on it more? I said, have a cup of tea and sit down and go back to sleep. She says, it says Queen Square. I said, you might have had another seizure. She said, okay, I'm quite scared. I'll do that. I said, I know, that's because you're not remembering everything. She goes, I'm sorry. I said, you're very sick right now. She goes, I'm worried. My baby isn't okay. And I'm angry because my husband is nowhere in sight. Okay. She goes, that doesn't sound good. I said, well, it is quite serious, but you can beat this. She goes, okay, well, I'll try sleep on something, okay? All right?
I said, you're just having a few setbacks. She goes, okay. I said, are you going to try to go back to sleep? She goes, I guess so. I said, if you need to talk, I'm here. Do you want to call? Do you want me to call you? She goes, then wake up everything. Just be okay. Okay, thank you. No, that's okay. I said, okay, well, get some rest. She says, I mean, yes, but I think I'd rather just wake up and everything be okay. I'm so screwed. She said, I'm so scared everything is bad. I said, you're probably very tired. She said, and if I wake up, it's not okay. Can you just tell me what is going on? I said, I don't want to make you upset. She goes, oh, I see. Okay, I'm sorry to have bothered you. I'll figure it out, right? I said, I don't want you to be mad at me. I'm trying not to upset you. If you want me to tell you what's going on, I can, but it will upset you. She goes, no, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at myself only. I'm just very confused, and I have a terrible feeling. I'm embarrassed, and I'm scared, but I'm not mad at you. I'm sorry. Then I said, okay, well, you're very sick right now. Okay, there's something in your brain. She says, I'll leave you in peace now. I said, they are trying to treat it for you, but today they found out that the treatment is making your blood levels very, very low. And last night, you woke up and you didn't feel right and you went to the hospital. And that's how they knew you had pain in your chest. Remember? She goes, okay, thank you. I'm sorry for all this. And then I said, and they said you had to stop the treatments until they get your blood levels back up. She goes, okay. I said, so they gave you medicine to try to do that. That was yesterday. She says, I said, I think you have to go back today for a blood test. She said, so just waiting for this medicine to work and then I'll be myself again? I said, yes, the medicine has to work. She goes, let's hope it works then, okay? Good, okay? I'm very sorry about this. I said, okay, you're going to go to sleep now. Please don't be sorry. It's a very scary thing, I mean, the feelings you have. She said, yes, I'm terrified. I said, okay, do you want me to talk to you about anything else? Do you want me to tell you anything else? She said, but I will try to sleep. I'm tired. She said that. And then she said, no, you don't have to. I don't want to force you. Maybe I'll learn them after is sleep. She goes, maybe things will be right side up again. Maybe, but I think right now my brain is broken. I said, if you want to know, let me know and I will tell you. If you just want to go to sleep and see what happens when you wake up, let me know that too. She goes, will you help me remember him? I'm still stupid when I wake up, if you don't mind. I said, yes, I will do. You just want to go to sleep now? She goes, I just think so. She said, I think I'm still asleep and I'll wake up and the nightmare will be over. I said, okay, why don't you do that then? She goes, I'm so sorry. You must think I'm insane. I'm so sorry. Thank you for humoring me and putting up with me. I said, you're my friend. Of course I do. She said, okay, well, good night. I will be normal again soon. Oh, and thank you. I said, good night, XX. She said, night, love you. I said, are you okay? She said, I remember they died, didn't they? That was 2 hours after this. I said, yes, they did. So sorry. She said, I can't believe it. And I can't believe I forgot. What kind of a person am I to forget? I said, it is not you. It is what is going on in your brain. She goes, okay, I wish I would remember. I feel like I get stabbed when I have to relearn it. Yeah, when you do that to everybody else, you know it. It's like cruelty. See, that's what she was doing. She was cruel. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy reading all this again. I don't know that I've ever read all this again in any of the videos. I said, I know, that's what I told you the other day. Did you mention that to the doctors? It's horrible that you have to go through that over and over again. She goes, I don't remember. I think so, and I think have an appointment in a new year about it, I think. She said, I have an appointment today also, but not about that. I said, did you have any more seizures? Did you sleep at all? She said, I think I did this morning, early, and one late last night. I said, you better tell them. She says, I slept, yeah, but not long, but thanks. She said, okay. She said, night sleep long, I mean, but slept hard for about an hour. Then she said, yes, okay, it'll be absolutely, they must need to change my medications to help. I said, you need to call the depot, supposed to deliver the postal people. She goes, I'm really sorry about this, Carolyn. I'm trying so hard. She said, call them. Why? I said, about the package. She goes, but they will deliver it, won't they? I said, but if they have the wrong zip code on it. She goes, didn't you say you wrote it on the box correctly? I said, yes, but Jimmy filled out the form and they put the form over the address that I wrote. She said, I'll definitely try to call them. I assume it's at the depot by me. No problem. I'll sort it. I said, okay, Jimmy gave you the information, right? She goes, yes, he did. She goes, I'll see if the tracking ID works on the Royal Mail site. I said, okay. She said, okay, it says awaiting payment of customs charges. What? I said. She goes, I'll show you. Hold on. I said, we paid so much in shipping. How is there more due? She goes, seriously, that was almost as much as FedEx charged. Crap, I'm so sorry. Please let me reimburse you. I said, no, but I can't believe they are charging me. Can you call? She says, I've never had to pay customs charges, ever. I have been sent stuff for years between the two countries. I said, I'm sure the lady at our post office messed it all up. She goes, yeah, I'll call and try to pay over the telephone, but it says Central London Department, so I may just go in and see if I can join. Go in. She said, was that you? I said, yeah, that was a misdial. But it doesn't say the other day. It said that it was the wrong postal code. You said the other day. She goes, yes, it was, but it should still be fine to get here with the wrong code. I said, I am really confused. I don't know why it would be charging more now. I wonder if they declared the package too much. She said, it'll be okay. I'll sort it out. Never has there been an issue before. It was listed as a gift, so I don't get that. Unless the charges are because of the wrong postal code, I'll find out. It won't be a problem. I said, yeah, call right away before they leave and send it back to me. The way things are going, I totally imagine that happening. She said, it should only be charged on things I ordered from the internet. It says, and not on things under $135 worth of value. They won't send it back. They send the charges to me. Okay, I'll call now, she says. Okay, I said, okay. She said, I mean, it says it was released from customs. I don't freaking get it. I said, neither do I. And just call. She says, okay, it's the postal code problem. They've charged me for holding the parcel while they redirect it. It's not expensive, but I have to wait for the letter, which I will receive today. I can pay online, and they will deliver it tomorrow. It's called a customs clearance fee to cover the additional cost of handling. It's not a problem. I said, oh, wow, that's ridiculous. So you're not able to get it today? This is insane. She said, yeah, the sadists require to do with the administration costs of rectifying the misinformation. They said to hold it and process it because they couldn't deliver it to me with the incorrect info. I said, oh my gosh, that's their job. She said, it's okay. I'm glad actually, because I thought, what the hell? They've changed it so I can't receive packages without paying from the U.S. But no, I said, do you have one job and they charge extra for it now? She goes, I know, right? I didn't think it was the wrong postcode would be that big of a deal. It's not miles out, only one letter. Sheesh. She said, I'm sorry about the fuss, but at least we know and I can fix it. I said, why can't you just go there, show ID, get this
of package. She said, well, might so just do that, to be honest. I said, I seriously would not do well in this country. I cannot deal with ineffectualness. And she said, yeah, well, I know, right? One letter out and they can't function or process. I said, they expect to have issues in their job, no problems to solve. Wow. I said, they expect to have no issues. I can't imagine a real issue. She said, I swear, if that letter comes to me with the wrong postal code on it, then we know the package was capable of arriving. I said, I would be screaming, yelling. She said, I bet it was, because it was Christmas Eve. They were too lazy. She said, anyway, at least we know now. It will be okay. I said, I don't want you to have to wait until tomorrow. She said, well, I'm going to be going in myself and then bring all the little things and see if they can fix it in there and then take her away. I'll do it on my way back from the hospital. I said, that is sheer lunacy. It saves them a job of delivering. I don't see how they can object. 12 pounds for a wrong letter, she's saying this, and then 5.5 pounds for each day after they have sent the letter until I pay. Thieves. I said, this is insanity. They probably look for stuff to make money. She goes, you're right. I said, I know. What a ripoff. No wonder their post office is not going out of business. And they are in the U.S. She goes, well, they were, and they privatized and turned to shite. Like sending you the parcels, they put a ridiculous low weight on, which meant I had to FedEx it and couldn't send it in the mail. That is brand new. It used to be able to send real heavy things. I said, craziness. I would be having a complete conniption fit over there. She says, yeah, British people just lay back and take crap. Great Britain, the world's doormat. And I said, and all the people walking out after having paid an arm and a leg, they're walking out with canes, and they're probably charged of the canes too. Ha ha, yes, she said. It's quite a racket they have going on there. She said, oh yes, it is. I really want to go home. I said, imagine charging per day to store the box like that, so big and taking up so much space. Oh my gosh. She said, right, like they have such limited space. It is on a shelf. Goodness sake, what a crock. I said, this is really highway robbery. Where was I? She said, I've had things sent even without a postal code before now. I said, probably on top of 6 other boxes in the same space, and we'll be in charge the same price. They're raking it in. She says, bastards. I said, I would walk in with a clipboard and start taking down names and numbers. She said, I'll bet they'll try charging me for Christmas storage. My New York will come out. And I said, what a bunch of crooks. Right? What a bunch of crooks. Okay. She said, haha, yes. Well, have very short fuse at the moment, so I'll be marching in there. If they give me a blood transfusion, they better watch out. I said, yes, gather up all your frustrations and save them for when you go there, and then let them have it. She goes, I will give you a full report. I said, okay, I'll let you go. Have a good day. I'm going to try to get a few Z's. She says, all right, sweet dreams, and this will be okay. Okay. I said, okay, you do that. Don't leave her in there with those crock thieves. She says, I won't, XX. And then she shows me a picture of the package. I said, you got it.
She goes, yes. I said, did you have to shoot anyone? She said, it was all handling fees plus tax, force change of address, complete sakes, zero import duties, it says on the sticker. How freezing rude, she put. I did not shoot anyone, but I wanted to. He is being too nice to me, and I have to get to the hospital because I mixed up all my stupid times, so I cannot open her yet. I said, wow, how much did you need to pay? This is crazy. Where are you now? Are you on your way to the hospital? She says it was 12 pounds, $18 handling fee, and 17 pounds, $24 tax for the handling. Robbery. I said, that is insane. I think somebody needs a strongly worded letter. She said, tax isn't that high here. I don't even understand. They took me for a ride. Tax is 20%. I'm so confused. I said, that is all because of the wrong zip code? She goes, yes. I said, oh, wow, that's unbelievable. I think that needs a YouTube video. She sends the receipt. Look, no import, no excise. Then I said, and the queen sits there with her silly wave, she says, well, I'm going to look into it and get all the details first, fully armed with knowledge, and I'm going to speak to someone because I wanted to mail some things back to myself when I go there next. I don't want to be stung, silly wave. Anyway, shall we rejoice that she is in the right hands right now? No, she's not in the right hands because your hands are not the right hands for anything. No, that poor doll. She says, F the queen, ha ha ha, thank you so much. Wow. Wow, nasty. You're a nasty girl. So then she goes, yes, you're rejoicing, but wow, just cannot believe how much they made you pay. She goes, oh, I found a clause on the label. It says retain for appeals. I guess that means they just do this crap and hope that people won't appeal. Money-making scam. I said, oh, we are definitely appealing this. She says, I'm on it. Don't you worry. I said, quite a racket they have going. This needs to be exposed. Something like this would be all over the news here. She says, well, I'm going to look into it and find out exactly what the hell. It clearly says no import and no excise, just their fees. Scandal. And I said, absolutely. Okay, and then we're going to get into Random Guy Jeff and what happened to him. So I think we should just save that for tomorrow because that comes up next. I think we're just going to do the word game. I'm so tired. Hi, everybody that's here. Hi, little Lighty. Said I couldn't have dealt with the constant whining and drama. The red flag would be screaming at me every night as I tried to sleep. Dina. Hi, Dina. Night sleep long. I wrote what Jaybells said, L. My condolences for your loss, Scooter. Perhaps I'm seeing things, somebody said. Today's Ray's birthday. Happy birthday, Ray. Kevin. Gotta make a cake or something. I told you I can't even get that Dutch processed. Coco. Dina said Carolyn is a saint in how she is dealing with Jaybells. I agree, little lady. Just absolutely crazy stuff, Gail says.
What are you guys saying? Hi, Jeanette. How are you? Making up those ailments is disgraceful. She's sick. I know, Victoria. Right? Horrible. We haven't even scratched the surface. Hi. Okay, that's it. I'm going to go to bed. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. We didn't make any of our goals tonight, so no movie night. Gotta go to sleep. But But we'll see you tomorrow. God bless and prayers. I'll see you. Good night.